We all know that the Nexus is a place where heroes come to be tested on the field of battle. Well, you could say that today the Nexus is right here. 8 of the best Heroes of the Storm teams in North America are here to prove why they deserve to be your champion. The battle for the region starts right now.
Through this Malfurion goes down early. There's no sustain left. Goku going to town. Raffle falls backing on up to just make sure that Tyrael and Diablo do not make it out of here. There's no chance of Blaze to stop this. Tempo Storm will qualify for America's Regionals.
Sarkamir getting body blocked. He's going to end up falling. Good hook from Battley. That's going to secure the kill onto Zagara.
But they're able to stun him out. Battery is so very low, but he gets over the wall, and Tyrande goes down.
Power slide peel. Now Medic is gonna fall. Murden will dwarf toss over the wall, but die to McIntyre. Just hitting on Medic.
The rest of the team is just getting annihilated.
Shot, please.
All right,
relax there.
Stalling them out, but Zagara goes down. Oh, but go for the throat, gonna pick up the kill. So Deadly Eyes getting the first kill of the game.
Springer Frost does nothing, and this is looking terrible for Resurgence suddenly. Backing up pretty quickly though. Shot signal. The Punisher turns around. The Sundering blows up Shot. Watch out for the Wailing. They're grouping up a lot. Big Sundering, and they immediately blow up Tyrael in this fight.
Chain Bomb going down. That's going to be the death of Shot. Daihu's going to go down. Rhaegar's going to fall as well. Shadowstalk has been used. Shot getting very low. And he falls to Glaurung there, and Glaurung gets out just fine.
We do see Kashi falls. Once again, Apocalypse is going to get some massive value, and the gust from behind.
Oh, my Kudo with the body blocks.
What a ridiculous player.
Somehow Panda Global is getting away in the closest scenario.
Oh, the dance gets 3 people. Caterpillar looking to hold them still. Arthelon does come in with a great silencing arrow. That is going to completely turn this fight around thanks to the quick thinking from Brightwing. Fantastic grab onto Faye with the follow-up polymorph.
Hey friends, welcome back. I'm Anna Prosser Robinson, and I am stoked that I'm going to be your host here at the Heroes of the Storm North American Regionals. If you don't know where you are, what you're doing, don't worry, I'm here to help you. I will be here, feet on the ground, in Burbank, California at the ESL Studios to be your eyes and ears. I hope that you're enjoying watching us home at Twitch, or on Twitch, and I'm so glad we can share this together, you and me. So just stay close. Don't worry, I'm going to hang out with you the whole time. And to give you some context, if you are one of those who has just stumbled upon this wonderful happenstance, let's give you some context. Let's look overall at this tournament really quick. So right now we are at, of course, the North American Regionals. We will crown 2 teams our champions. Then they will continue on to Korea in the beginning of April for the World Championships. Now those 2 teams are not going to be equivalent though. The first place team will get some big advantages. That first place team will get an automatic bye in the World Championships into the round of 8. That means they don't even have to worry about those first few rounds, and it gives them an advantage not only in the competition, but in terms of that mad money that they might take home. Speaking of that, let's look at the prize pool. Now here at the North American Regionals, we're giving away 100,000 American dollars. First place will take home 25,000 of those, but the other places take home some nice cash as well. And remember, I mentioned that first place team is going to get a little bit of a bump in terms of the competition. They'll also be in the money already at the World Championships. So this is an important financial thing for these teams. They're really looking to make sure they get not only one of those 2 spots, but that first place spot. Let's take a look at how these teams are going to face off in the groups. Now, these have been seeded. They're going to be Group A is going to be Tempo Storm, Panda Global, Team Naventic, and King of Blades Alpha. Group B will be Cognitive, Team Blaze, Cloud9, and Team Nam. Now that means that's how they're going to go into the brackets, which we can take a look at right now. The upper bracket will be Tempo Storm, Panda Global, Team Naventic, and King of Blades Alpha facing right off, and that is going to be our schedule here at the beginning of the day. So Tempo Storm and Panda Global will be our first match. Now, going into those matches, don't worry. Again, I know you're worried about being alone. I know it feels really weird. You can't actually be here in the studio. I'm going to be here with you, but don't worry. There's some other people who are going to be here with you. You're going to have some very, very talented commentators. Later, Gilly, Weed, and Zoya will be joining us, but right now, at the desk, sitting across from me, I can see their beautiful, shining faces, but not too shiny, nice and matte, and, you know, all sorts of appropriate faces. We have Dreadnought and Solid Jake. How are you guys doing over there?
I'm so glad my face is appropriate. It's great to be back here in 2016 with more Heroes of the Storm, and I'm thrilled to be here with Dreadnought.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. From a pro player to an analyst here today, I'm very excited for the games coming out this weekend. It's going to be a great tournament.
If you think that Solid Jake's face is appropriate, or if you think it's absolutely inappropriate, don't forget that you can tell us on social media. And if you do, don't forget to use the hashtag HGC so we know where to look. You can also feel free to tweet directly at me if you have any ideas or specific questions that you'd like me to ask the players as we go through the day. I will maybe ask your questions. We will see. Now, I know you're here to watch some Heroes of the Storm, and I know that you're here to watch your favorite players. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce them. First of all, our first team is cuddly, wuddly, black and white bears, but they are also fierce warriors. It is Team Panda Global.
All right, well, Panda Global, you know them, you love them. They're looking good in those hoodies, man, and those jerseys. But what do we know about this team, Dredd? What do you think they're going to play like?
I mean, they have a different playstyle from most teams. We're going to see that in a little bit here when it comes to how they take out their draft. They have a lot of players that are very good on specific heroes. Michael Udall is going to be a guy to be looking out for when it comes to these games. There you see his beautiful face there and hair. He's definitely going to be somebody to look out for when it comes to this team and how they play. I think that they're going to be the underdog, but I do think that there's somebody who could be a dark horse here, Jace.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Udall's hair actually has its own Twitter. We talk about that a lot, but that's it just goes to say how famous he is. Made a big impact on with big impact, of course, back at Heroes of the Dorm last year. And 16-6 for the record. Stitches, Lunara, both two very strong heroes on Infernal Shrine, so not a big surprise to see that's their most played Battleground if those are their most played heroes.
Absolutely, and again, that kind of shows a little bit to their playstyle there that I was talking about, and just a little bit uncommon, if you will.
Well, I can't wait to see what they can pull off here this weekend, but they've had a pretty tough opponent for the first round.
They definitely do.
Speaking of that next opponent, it's my pleasure to introduce them as well. We've talked a lot about appropriate faces, shining faces, beautiful faces, and this team has a little bit of a new face right now on this stage. It is Tempo Storm.
All right, well, Tempo Storm, they've got a bit of a new roster, as Anna was getting to. Goku, Stray, and Zix have all joined KO and Soldier. Now, Dredd, this is your former team.
Yeah.
It's got to be a little weird sitting behind the analyst desk, you know, from being a player.
It definitely is, especially when it comes down to kind of the decision-making aspect coming from the ex-shot caller of the team and seeing their new play style. It's going to be shown throughout this entire tournament. Their decision-making, their maximizing XP, and just kind of their min-maxing is something that they're very, very good at now with a little bit less aggressive rotation. So it's going to be interesting to see how well they've come together over the recent tournaments and how well they're going to be able to come up and show against Panda Global today. You see that 12-3. They've done really well. And also a very different Li Ming being one of their most played heroes, and Cursed Hollow, something that wasn't really their go-to when I was necessarily a part of it. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they've evolved, Jake.
Yeah, a lot of players have said they're the new 2-arc. They bust out a lot of really unorthodox strategies, and that's great for catching their opponents off guard. But I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. I'm sure they've prepared some great new strategies, and I can't wait to see this match unfold.
You know, not knowing what to expect is kind of the name of the game here. I think both of these teams are hoping that's the case. I am sitting here in between them. I'm close enough that I could just stroke their faces lovingly if I wanted to. I won't, but I could, and I wanted to share that feeling with you. There we are. Jake, you're so close over there to Michael Udall's hair that you could probably smell it, I would think.
Oh, I can smell it.
Does it smell nice?
It's luscious. I mean, I'm just wafting it over here. There's some fans in the studio. It's just, he's the closest player to me, and I couldn't be happier.
I mean, I'm envious.
Well, we're going to have to try and get our thoughts back centered on the game because it is time that we are going to get into the draft. This is the game before the game. This is where the mind games are really important. Casters, what do you think we're going to see in this draft?
I think a lot of what we're going to see is Lunar Stitches. I think that's going to be, as we saw, Stitches is going to kind of be a hero that's in play in this tournament, right? Yep. And he's been high contention for almost every team in North America. Then also you see that unique playstyle that I was talking about coming out from Panda Global. There's going to be a lot of things to look for. Another thing I think to look out for is going to be, as I said, Micah Udall. The characters he's very good at is going to be melee assassins. Specifically, I think Zeratul is who we're going to be looking at as a very high contention hero in this match.
Well, Zeratul's always been a big playmaker, but I've been talking to a lot of the players this weekend, and Illidan seems to be high on that list. And if you've been following the hero scene, Illidan hasn't been all that common for quite a while. Do you think we're going to see Illidan in this match?
It might be. I think it's going to have to be a larger map. If we see it on some of the smaller ones, I don't think it's going to be a necessarily go-to, but I definitely do think he will be a contention point somewhere in this matchup against these two teams.
So talking about Illidan, talking about Zeratul, Greymane, of course, is another big hero that's kind of not all that common in North America. In Europe, we do see him picked relatively early, rather frequently, but in NA, he's really kind of a bit more of a niche. Do you think he has a position to kind of be similar to Zeratul, even though he doesn't have that big heroic like Void Prison?
I think he doesn't fill the same role, but I definitely think that he's going to be a hero, again, of high contention. We've seen, actually, when it comes to a lot of the scrimmages here at this tournament beforehand, that a lot of the teams are kind of already developing a new meta within this tournament, and it's going to be something that we keep seeing evolving, and I definitely think Greymane is going to be a big part of it.
So halfway through this event, the drafts are going to start to get figured out, and then the meta will be developed. And is this like just due to inspiration from Korea, inspiration from China and Europe, and teams kind of, you know, picking and choosing what they think is the best meta? Because we do have a pretty different meta from some of the other regions. Yeah, no, I definitely think it's a little bit of inspiration from the other regions of the world, but I also feel like a little bit is kind of like pulling off of taking away from necessarily not wanting to show your picks kind of when it comes to some of the drafts right before a tournament, and all that makes the new meta. Oh, that's actually so fun to see these teams hiding their strats. Will it be the first picks with Li Ming? Will it be the first picks with Thrall, Zagara? We've seen that be very common. Early picks on Zagara left and right. Depends on the map. Sometimes you'll see the Falstad ban, and of course, Rhaegar. He is very highly contested right now.
Absolutely. He's just like one of those heroes that just everything about him is so absurdly powerful on all fronts. He essentially is never a bad pick, so he's definitely going to be that kind of chokehold hero here, Jake.
Well, yeah, he's a support that's good in the laning phase. He's a support that can get mercenary camps on his own rather efficiently. He pairs well with melee assassins, but he pairs great with ranged assassins. Yeah. He's just very well-rounded as a support hero.
Absolutely. You can actually attribute the not only, but a large portion of the relevance of Illidan that might come in this tournament because of Rhaegar. He is a large portion of the reason that he has the kind of strength that he has, being a chokehold point in these kind of drafts.
Now, one thing we have to point out is if you guys haven't tuned in to any Heroes of the Storm since BlizzCon, you know about 3 heroes that were announced. We had, of course, Lunara, Greymane, and Cho'Gall. And Cho'Gall has really been making a big splash on the meta, so how often do you think we'll see him played here? Because he is a very powerful pick.
I think that's one of the things that I was kind of referencing when it comes to the new kind of internal tournament meta being developed is definitely going to be Cho'Gall. He's a hero that a lot of the teams have kind of been dabbling with a little bit here and there, but I feel like he's slowly becoming the pick for some of these teams.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, just the power of Cho'Gall, the fact that Gall has no mana. He can just poke and poke and poke and slowly wear down the support's healing, wear down the enemy team, and wait for that moment to strike. And you talk about maps like Infernal Shrines where you're just kind of dueling over all these minions. The amount of splash damage he has is
it's just insane. No, his harassment is just, it's crazy. And I mean, I'm going to even go to say maybe as crazy as that you might see not only just Cho'Gall, you will see not necessarily the common builds of what you know Cho'Gall to be. I'm calling out Upheaval. I think that's going to be something that comes into play at this tournament. And there's going to be a lot of other things and pairings with him that are going to be very, very relevant when it comes to some of the drafts, especially with certain teams.
Well, I'm super pumped to see if we see Rhaegar make it through the draft. Does that enable Cho'Gall even more, especially with Earth Shield?
Yep.
But beyond that, there's going to be a lot of pocket strats coming out. Will they come out early? As a player, would that be a strategic thing that's good to do?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it's going to come down to not in your first set. Unless you're very panicked, I think it shows a little bit too much of lack of confidence if you're willing to throw it out in the first set. I think we'll see a lot of the teams feeling each other out at first, and then once they see the success of the first or second game, depending on what direction it goes, you're either going to pull out your pocket strats right then, or you're going to go even more standard, if you will, trying to hide everything as long as you possibly can. I definitely don't think these teams are going to be busting it out yet, but they will definitely be because there's so much on the line for this tournament.
Well, while we're getting ready for the first draft of the event, we're going to take a look at a quick spotlight video. Let's check it out.
Forward unto darkness.
The enigmatic necromancers hold a belief that all creation exists in a delicate balance between light and darkness. Should either side gain control, the world of Sanctuary would fall into ruin. As a member of their ancient order, Zul fights to preserve that balance, no matter where his travels may take him or what foes stand against him. Zul is a close-quarters specialist who weakens his enemies and raises the undead to aid him in battle.
Rise in my service.
Zul's trait is Raise Skeleton. When a nearby enemy minion dies, Zul will raise a skeleton warrior to push alongside him. The Necromancer can have multiple skeletal warriors active at once. His first basic ability is Spectral Scythe. After a brief delay, Zul summons a ghostly scythe at range that returns to his location, dealing moderate damage to all enemies within its path. Next, Zul is able to empower his melee weapon to deal Cursed Strikes. Once activated, Zul's scythe will deal area damage for a short duration with every basic attack, while simultaneously reducing the attack speed of all heroes hit. Zul's E ability is Bone Prison. When cast on an enemy, following a short delay, Zul summons a cage of bone that roots its target. Zul's base kit includes an activated ability on the one key, Bone Armor. Once activated, Zul gains a temporary shield. This ability is customized at the level 1 talent selection to either deal damage, slow, or evade basic attacks. Zul's first heroic option is Poison Nova. After a brief wind-up, Zul releases a wave of poison missiles that radiates outward for a significant distance. All targets hit by the poison will suffer a large amount of damage over a long period of time. For more battleground control, Zul can call upon a host of undead skeletal mages. Once activated, Zul will summon a group of undead mages in a straight line that will damage and slow nearby enemies.
Never doubt my skill.
Zul's passive, Raise Skeleton, is a huge boon to lane control, making the Necromancer a powerful pushing force. Clear large waves with the help of your minions, and push down objectives when you have the extra health bars supporting you. Use Spectral Scythe as a means to work in extra damage from afar. Strategize your position both before and after casting this ability to reap maximum target damage out of the scythe's travel path. Cursed Strikes is of course a fantastic tool for clearing minions in lane and dealing significant damage to grouped up opponents. But its ability to counter high attack speed heroes is important to keep in mind. When facing off against auto attack heroes, seize available opportunities to cover them with this ability. Your team will benefit greatly from the decrease in damage. Bone Prison is Zul's only option for hero lockdown. Use this ability to help your team secure kills, or to punish a squishy assassin that enjoys overextending. The delay built into this ability awards its target a few precious moments for escape, so consider using it earlier than later. And definitely don't forget Bone Prison's potential to help a teammate in need. If you find yourself in the middle of fights often and looking for that extra damage, Poison Nova is the heroic option for you. Casting this ability while up close and personal with an enemy team will ensure the whole group takes on the damage. Poison Nova is a great counter to have ready when facing a dive-heavy team anxious to pounce. On the other hand, if you prefer to play a game of control, consider Skeletal Mages as a fitting heroic choice. Position the ability near your enemies to impede any option of escape. Your opponent will have to choose whether to commit to a direct fight or to clear out the mages while tanking unwanted damage. Zool has entered the fray and is ready to lend his dark powers of necromancy to the fight. If you'd like to hear more about Heroes of the Storm, don't forget to subscribe to our channels here on YouTube and around the web. We'll see you in the Nexus.
Thanks so much for being patient, guys. Par for the course, we're just having a few issues that we need to settle, but in the meantime, we've paraded Dunk Train out to entertain you. Thanks, man, for joining me.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, guys. Thank you for having me, I guess.
But are you really happy to be here? Are you happy to be here instead of in the player area where I heard you were sleeping on the couch?
I mean, I did have a really comfy chair lined up that will probably not be there by the time I get back, so maybe I'm a little upset.
You said that Arthalon was, I mean, they said, we're going to have you interview Arthalon or Dunk Train. I heard Arthalon was actually like sunk into a couch.
I mean, if you were level with the top of the couch, you couldn't see his head over it. And he's a tall guy, so that's a feat. So, I mean, he's like, oh, way leaned back. So.
Well, you guys had to be here early, like all the other teams, but you don't play till later, right? So when's your first game?
Yeah, we're match 6, I believe. So we have to wait for all of Group A to resolve. And then Group B will begin with the other match in our group, which is Cognitive versus Blaze. And after that, I believe we're the follow-up. So we got a long ways to wait today.
Yeah, how does that affect your mindset? What do you do to make sure that you're ready when you get there?
Well, I think it can actually be kind of distracting, especially for newer teams. Like, you're here, you're already nervous. You're like, oh, man, I have a tournament to play today. Like, this is worth so much. We want to go to Korea. We want to qualify. But we're kind of veterans, and even more than that, I think our team is just really well-equipped to kind of relax. And, you know, just kind of take it chill in the player area, not stress ourselves. You just want to be in the right mindset when your game time comes. You don't want to be freaking out.
Right, and I mean, you have games to watch right now, and people kind of, they love to remember the Tempo Storm Cloud9 rivalry. So maybe people would assume that you're watching the Tempo Storm games, but also people are saying, that's not a rivalry anymore. It's Cloud9 and Aventic. So where's the rivalry we should watch, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's pretty well established now that us and Aventic are the biggest rivalry. I mean, the thing is, a lot of our players have played on teams with each other, so that feeds into it too. Not only did we end up first, second in the last event and like seem to go head to head pretty well. Our styles are a lot of fun, I think, when they clash, but we also know how everybody plays. Like, I've played on a team with 3 of those guys. They've played on a team with 4 of our guys. Like, so you know what everyone's like. You know what comms are like. You know how to get in each other's heads. There's just so many mind games that go into that in addition to the actual gameplay that's just going to be really top-notch.
I mean, you guys even have Arthalon who moved over from Tempo Storm to Cloud9 now, so you have kind of spies that you're bringing in. Do you feel like you guys have the best understanding of these other teams? Do you feel like really confident going into this, or are you kind of reserving? I mean, the casters have said, we don't know what we're going to see here. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
I think it's going to end up like our old Tempo Storm rivalry sets did, where when we find each other in the tournament, the first draft's going to look normal, and then like the game's just going to get wild as we try to get into each other's heads. It's like people are going to be playing crazy stuff, doing weird picks, like, because it's all about getting that mental edge over your opponent when you're this close.
I saw actually, we have a cool sheet of info about you guys. A couple things I learned from that your favorite hero is Greymane, you mentioned. Is this true?
I actually had just gotten to play some Greymane on stream for the first time after coming back from China, and I was like, oh my gosh, this hero is like insanely fun, because I don't really get to practice that much of like the assassins and that type of stuff, because I just don't get to play those for competitive, so it's kind of a waste of time for me to practice those heroes. But I was playing on stream, and somebody was like, play Greymane, so I'm like, fine, I bought him, and like I was just having a blast, but I probably didn't play him that well. I was kind of going a little too ham, because I didn't have me to heal myself, so
right.
you know.
You couldn't support and play at the same time. It's a whole thing. The second thing I learned before we throw back to the casters was that your name actually comes from Space Jam. Dunk Train comes from Space Jam. Is this true?
No, but it's kind of an inspiration because it's like just so crazy.
I was so excited.
Okay. It's a funny movie. It's great, and I just thought it would be a funny reference to kick in there.
Can we just pretend it's actually from Space Jam?
Absolutely.
Can we sing the Space Jam theme together later?
Off camera?
Fine,
okay.
I guess. We'll do it right now. But in the meantime, casters, back to you. What have we got?
All right. Well, you know, there's a fun story. Dunk Train used to have like the nerdiest name in the world, and then he picked Dunk Train to be his new handle, which is like the manliest name in the world.
No, he's got the manliest beard to follow up on it. I mean, just everything about him. And, like, I definitely understand his struggle when he talks about when you're playing solo queue in these assassins and not having you to heal you. I mean, support feels right there. So I definitely know where he's coming from on that one.
Oh, man. You know, actually, you guys can tweet at DunkTrain and ask him what his old tag was. He would absolutely just, he'll hate me for it, but it's okay. It's worth it. So, of course, Cloud9, a lot of those guys prepping for their match. They won't be till later today. Tempo Panda Global, what we're setting up for right now.
Yep. I mean, a lot of the talking points we brought up is all we're going to be looking at. And again, I think a lot of the big players are going to be Big Impact, B-Kid, I think is going to be, and then also Udall. And then from Tempo, like whether or not that synergy, that evolution comes into play. I mean, there's not much else to say. It's just, are they going to be able to bring it here? This is where you got to do it. And are they going to be able to? Because again, we've seen like Tempo at Heroes Rising, whether or not they were really going to be able to perform on that lane experience. And some of these guys, it might be their first lane ever. So, I mean, it all comes down to this. This is going to be set pace or tempo, if you will, for the rest of the tournament.
Now, if you guys are tuning in at home, obviously that's the only way you'd be hearing me, you can actually connect your Battle.net account to your Twitch account, where you can actually unlock an exclusive portrait from this event by just being a viewer. So it's a really cool initiative from Twitch and Blizzard, making that a possibility. Shout out to that, really cool. And the portrait's like, it's all green, it's shiny. Look at Michael Udall, the portrait's almost as shiny as his hair.
Almost as shiny as his hair, definitely. I mean, I for a while, everybody in the community and streams were talking about how like Dread's hair was the rival, but honestly,
no,
Udall puts it to rest. There is no competition.
There's like DunkTrain's beard, and then there's Udall's hair, and like that's the spectrum. Like that's the god tier, S tier.
Yeah, and nobody can touch it. Oh gosh, definitely the the hair coming out from him is 10 out of 10 or 6.5 out of 10.
Oh, easily. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys. There is a giant Murky behind Dreadnought on the stage. And every time I look over, I get a little bit worried that pufferfish is going to get thrown out and Butcher's going to come in with a ruthless onslaught and just ruin your day. So that's going to be very distracting for me. I'm very excited for this opportunity.
I'd be more worried about the Octograb, but I see where you're coming from.
You're saying Butcher's not a good hero?
No, I'm just saying the pufferfish is like, it's pretty easy to walk away from unless the Octograb comes in. So that'd be is it 20? Do they have like double?
You're right. There's a lot of variables we got to consider.
Double
here.
puffer all the way across the sky, man.
All the way across the sky. If Murky could fly, I probably would just be terrified of this game. We can see the players are still getting set up. KO, man, he used to be the tiniest little guy, and he has gotten so buff.
Yeah.
Ever since he's like, I've known him for the last 2 years.
Girls
he hits
for girls,
the gym,
man.
dude.
Yeah. He's going to put Kubi to rest soon here, man.
Oh, yeah, rip Kubi.
Yeah.
He's going to take Kubi and Kaldor, one with each arm, just going in.
Oh, man. Definitely. And then, like a lot of him now being the team captain, trying to figure out the new regimen for like the practice and everything else when it comes to these teams is like something that's I think he's done a really good job of. I don't necessarily work directly with Tempo by any means, but at the same time, I do once in a while get to ask like, how do you feel about being a captain and everything else? And I feel like he's done a really good job at kind of taking over that leadership role, if you will. Again, there's Sray, you see, also doing a good job of that now, being the shot caller for their team. So
there's Akaface. He's in the zone. He's thinking about Brightwing. His eyes are Brightwing colored.
The polymorph dream right now is going through his head.
That would be like the best comic book, The Polymorph Dream.
Mm-hmm.
I'd read it.
I agree. And there you see over there, that's going to be Zix, who's giving a good love and a kiss over to Panda Global. That's confidence right there if you're willing to give him a kiss beforehand. You doll. Oh, man. But these teams...
It looks like the issue with the PC is just about resolved. We had to get a computer swapped out here. That's why we have this big delay, guys. So thanks for bearing with us. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We're still getting things resolved, making sure that these players have their settings optimal. You never want to put a player on a PC and have their mouse settings be incorrect and have them not perform at the best. It's like going into, I think I made this reference at another event before. I said it's like playing soccer without cleats. You're just playing with dancing shoes and you have no traction on the ground. It's not that extreme, but it's definitely up there, because if you're playing with incorrect mouse sensitivity or anything like that, or maybe your hotkeys aren't accurate, it can just not only is it like mentally exhausting because it's not exactly what it should be, but you're not going to perform as well.
No, exactly. And that's like a little bit of a strategy that some people do is they'll even take the time to try and make sure that they play only on default and they learn the game at default settings so they can never risk like that micro adjustment and kind of messing it up, or take like, I know Soldier when we were playing together, he would screenshot his settings, every setting page, no matter what. So when he went to the tournament, he would make sure it was exactly
that's really smart.
Every tournament it was just
even like the audio and everything.
Yeah, and it seems like like one of those things where you're like, that doesn't make sense. But you don't understand when that much pressure is on your shoulders, all it takes is like not being able to hear something, like a sound effect. Like if you can't hear like a Stitches hook out sound effect or something, you're like used to that and everything else, and like you use that as a cue for the timing on it, right? Like that's all it takes to make like that minor misplay as well. Just like one audio and you're tipped. You know?
Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, we also got to remember what's on the line. $100,000 worth of prizing in top 2 advance to Korea. But we also have to point out once again, the fact that the team that gets first place at this event passes the whole first day, the whole first round of the World Championship. You're guaranteed a top 8 spot. So not only do you get an extra day of rest, an extra day to adjust to the time zone, but you get a top 8 prizing guaranteed. And that is just massive, massive, massive to get first place in this event.
Absolutely, and like that advantage that it gets not only like on a financial level, but more so on a competitive level. Like what that brings to the table when you do end up arriving at Korea is just, I mean, it's from a strategic point of view, what you're able to do as a player from that point on, and like how you're going to be able to approach the tournament, it gives you such a big upper hand. So that it's every position in this tournament is going to be something that teams are going to be striving to make sure that they capitalize as best as they possibly can. So going to be really interesting to see how that plays out for the rest of this tournament. And these two teams going to be the ones starting it off here, Jake. To look at Soldier setting it up, making sure
Final
making sure it's perfect.
You know, there's like a really cool story. If you guys have ever followed StarCraft, Boxer is a legend, absolute legend in Brood War and StarCraft 2. And he used to have this little ruler, this little block that he'd bring in to measure the height of the monitor. And he'd have a specific piece that he would measure the distance of the keyboard from the edge of the desk. And then he had another piece that he would measure the height of the monitor, just to make sure that everything was exactly precise. Like he was very methodical of making sure that he was set up in the same setting as his home. So we talk about in-game settings of this, but it also comes down to hardware, physical setup, how far you're sitting from the desk, how high is your chair, how high is your monitor. There's a lot of things that come into this to making sure you can perform at the absolute highest level.
Absolutely, and a lot of it comes down to the simplistic phrase. I mean, you just want to practice how you play, right? Like when it comes down to the tournament, you like practice like it's tournament day. Get in there and just work hard, and it's like everything needs to be the same, right? And it's just like whether it be the in-game settings or the external hardware. So I definitely agree with that there. Something I actually now thinking about it, wish I had like practiced a little bit of when it came to my own style.
You know, I was like the biggest Boxer fanboy. I used to be an MLG admin for StarCraft back in the day, and I was lucky to have lunch with him, and we had the translator at the table, and for some reason we got talking about StarCraft players as characters from Dragon Ball Z. And we went through the whole lineup as to who everyone was, and Boxer was clearly Goku. And his apprentice at the time, MMA, was Gohan. And MMA had never seen Dragon Ball. And Boxer was just so disappointed in his player on his team that he had never seen Dragon Ball. It was the funniest thing and a very cool experience because, I mean, Boxer's he's a legend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then now Tempo Storm still, again, trying to line a little bit of the things out. You see the KO sitting there looking a little bit with like making sure the audios are right, making sure everybody gets in the lobby. But I do think we are slowly but surely closing in here, Jake, onto what is going to be, in my opinion, an absurdly interesting draft. Maps being picked up by these teams. Again, remember the comfort zone we saw. Cursed Hollow is what it's going to be for Tempo Storm, and Inferno Shrines is what we saw when it came to Panda Global, and a lot of it came down to that Nature's Calling level 7 from Lunara and how that's going to play out. So again, map and draft here is going to be really crucial on the success of both these teams.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are, like you said, moving on forward. You can actually see some of the coaches there on the desk, which is really cool. I'm not sure if they're actually allowed to stay in there during the game, mic'd up, but I see they have headsets on, so that's really cool.
I believe they partake directly. They directly help with draft. They're able to, they sit there with a notebook with all the stats that they've worked and developed as a team, their kind of thought process, and then they're going to be able to aid only in the draft, but then past that point they have zero influence on the game. It's not like they're able to shot call or anything else for the team. So it's just to be a kind of a third party, if you will, when it comes to ensuring that they get the best draft possible when so much is on the line here.
It's a really cool difference that exists with some esports, because I remember back in the MLG days, if I'm not mistaken, for Halo, the coach could actually be over the shoulder and constantly helping them manage some of the timings on the power-ups on the map. But even just having that you know, 6 pair of eyes, that 6 brain involved with that notebook, calculating the, you know, preparing against your opponents to help you with the draft is super, super impactful here in this setting. And well, we'll have to see exactly how impactful it is. Not every team will have a coach there on the stage, but these two do. I believe it's Barcode for Panda Global.
For the side of Tempo Storm, it is going to be Parkser is his name. And he does a lot of work with them and helps them out whenever possible here at this tournament. And again, it's like one of those things where it's one of the managers undervalued, coaches undervalued when it comes from from a player's perspective. They do so much, especially when I can't I guess translate how the pressure feels at this level. Not so much this early in the tournament, but day 2 is where things really start to hit hard, and every single that panic button kind of gets hit in everybody's brain, and just in your head, everybody's throwing around files, burning everything, trying to figure out what are we gonna do, what's the draft, what are we gonna pick here and there, and it's those kind of guys, the little things that they do really help to make sure that doesn't happen as long as possible when it comes to the teams.
Throwing around files, burning everything, that's what it's like when I do taxes, man. It is just a disaster. All right, well, normally we actually do see Zoya as the manager of Tempo Storm, but he is actually joining us on the commentary desk this weekend. Of course, you've seen him at Heroes Rising earlier this year.
Yep.
He did WCA last year, and he's, of course, been one of the hosts of the podcast I do, Town Hall Heroes. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary as a podcast last week,
man.
So it's crazy. It's crazy to think that this game has been around for just about 2 years.
No, it is absolutely insane to think the amount of time that both you and I sitting there, everybody here has been starting from the very beginning and trying to build
The
something
early alpha.
Yeah, and to see where it is today. I mean, especially when you think about some of the evolution of not only the meta but just heroes in general. Some of the nostalgic Tychus Tassadar, some of those things, and when you really go back and you think about what Tassadar used to do, you're just oh my goodness. But here we go. We are actually going to be getting into the draft here, Jake, and look at that. Infernal Shrines is going to be the map here, and Panda Global going to be on home territory.
So first off, big shout out to ESL for making this draft system. This is handsome as it gets. We can look at Michael Udall while the draft happens. I can't ask for more. The first ban will be Falstad here. Now, this map, obviously Falstad with the big mobility, the 40-second cooldown on Mighty Gust for the safe disengage, and those powerful initiations when you fly forward. Very powerful hero. You want to remove him in the forced ban on Rhaegar because they don't want to let Tempo first pick Rhaegar.
Expect a high priority of Zag. There it is. First pick on Tempo Storm's half there, with the banning out of the Falstad going to be a sustained damage removal, and then prioritization of it there. Going to be a very dominant laner. And again, what we were talking about, Stitches right out the gates for Panda Global. The question is the pairing of Lunara. Where is that priority going to fall? Tempo Storm already having the sustained damage dealer. Lunara going to be that late game spike, that 7 Nature's Calling we were talking about, and a Tassadar for the site to pair it up, Jake. This draft already, like I said, starting out very, very aggressive.
Yeah, the power of Oracle to just give you the eyes you need, not only to clean up the creep, to land those hooks with Stitches, certainly is there. Will they prioritize Jaina, Li Ming, both big mage for damage dealer? Do they want to get one of their warriors like ETC Murd in high priority, or do they lock in Zeratul? They do go for him very early in this draft.
I think that's a huge priority, as I was talking about, taking that away from Panda Global, also the pairing that exists when it comes to Stitches here. So I really do like that pickup for them. It's going to be interesting. Are they going to wait it out a little bit here and trying worry about the Lunara? Or is there something that they're comfortable enough to let through in this draft? I personally don't think it's something that I would be willing to risk if I was on the side of Tempo. But again, it just comes down to what do you feel like you are better than your opponent at when it comes to understanding this draft?
Yeah, I mean, VP paired with Maw, so much control. You dictate the pace of the fight completely, and they go for that early Lunara. When you think about fighting for those Immortals, the Nature's Calling for the additional damage, output 200% additional damage. She just burns through towers, she burns through minions, and she burns through those Immortals.
Absolutely, and this draft is honestly forming almost exactly as expected, really. Zeratul, Lunara, Stitches, a lot of the heroes that we think that are going to be high priority. The Medic ban going to come out there, delaying a little bit of the late game oriented composition that Tempo Storm might be looking out here. Again, the Stitches is going to be picked up, so a tank on that half, a ban on the tank is probably not going to be a go-to here for Tempo unless they see a direct synergy. But the DPS is severely needed on the side of Panda Global. Are they going to be worried about a Jaina and look to get that ban out there? Are they going to be worried about something, I feel like a burst-oriented or a little bit of a follow-up? Like, oh man, they go with the Sonya for the pairing with the Tassadar. I do enjoy that, but notice how Jaina and Li Ming, both mages, have gone through this draft almost unscathed.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, but also the support situation is getting dire here for Tempo. I mean, what do you think the priority support's going to be? Is it just going to be Karazim? Do you think there's still room for Tyrande with what they have? They don't really have a lot of stuns.
Yeah, no, I definitely think Karazim is kind of the go-to in that type of situation when it comes to the support. With that many banned and that many picked, Brightwing is still an option with the Zeratul. Really good pairing there. I think that's the go-to. In my opinion, if I'm on Tempo, I'm going to be looking to pick up that Brightwing. But I think Panda Global's response right now at this part of the draft is really crucial. Their next two picks, I genuinely think, are going to determine who's going to walk away with a win in this draft. Not so much the game, but more so the draft. ETC is going to be locked in there for a follow-up. And again, what is their damage dealer? What are they looking for here? Again, when I was talking about a little bit of the shifts within the tournament too, solo Tassadar support might be something, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but it might be something that some of these teams are willing to pull out. I don't know about in this situation exactly, but again, the meta kind of adapting to these foreign regions.
So do you think it's worth speccing into like getting groupies to get a little bit of additional support out of ETC when he's like, we've got this double big body frontliner? Of course, Stitches can go for amplified healing, has a lot of self-sustain. If you went lone support Tassadar, would that be the way to play it?
Not that style of play. I think you would adjust accordingly because of the lack of healing. Again, also with that tested, our melees are really good for Panda Global. So with Zeratul taken, I was going to say that exactly right there. Greymane is going to be locked in. I think that's the end of the go-to for them, and that is now a Greymane. And so with Greymane locked in, because he does provide a large amount of burst and poke, this is kind of a Korean-oriented and European style of play where the solo Tassadar support, the Greymane would be heavy amount of poke against it, and they'd be willing to run it alone or paired. It isn't typically ran in double tank style with that, but it's going to be interesting. Will they follow it up? Are they going to run another DPS or are they going to run another support? And again, I think tempo, when we're talking about supports, Brightwing is going to be their go-to here. They want those picks. Johanna going to be locked in for the wave clear on the Shrine. Beautiful pickup on their part, and I do think it will be rounded out there, as I said, with Akaface Deny on the BW.
Yeah, well, we do need that final pick support. You said Brightwing could be great here. Karazim could work. Mouth, not all that common on Infernal Shrines. But of course, Moonburn is definitely a strong talent to grab for the additional clear that you need.
Pairs with Zagar as well.
Yeah, that is true. So we could see the big roots, follow up there for the Maw as an option, but who knows? Templeswarm really considering this last pick.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about that was actually kind of brilliant on the side of Panda Global when it comes to this draft, that Greymane lock-in, what it really did is because they knew that Brightwing was a go-to kind of pickup for Templestorm with the pairing with Zeratul, what it really does is Brightwing's not very good at poke. She doesn't have the sustained healing directly to deal with that situation. So he says, okay, you want Lunara, you're going to make it to the late game, we're going to lock it in. They don't go with the Brightwing, they go with Uther instead. Well, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the power of Uther, you could have a guaranteed mosh pit if ETC did that, so that's a big synergy. And then when Greymane goes in with Go for the Throat,
if you deny,
it's going to give him so much power if they lit that slip through. And Tassadar Uther is just, that would be an almost unkillable style team, and this gives him that big power at level 20. You have the Indestructible on Johanna, you have the Redemption on Uther. If they spec for both of those, these drawn-out fights with those double controlling heroics could be really, really powerful here.
Absolutely, I agree, but I do fear a lot of this composition is going to come down to how well Goku is going to be able to play, or at least whoever the Zeratul player it is. It might not be Goku in this type of situation, but a lot of it's going to be how to Lunara poke them down and then Greymane kind of finish it out, or not Greymane, excuse me, Zeratul finish out with that wormhole coming in, trying to get a couple of kills there. Panda Global looking to round out the rest of their composition. Again, I feel like it can go in a lot of different directions. I feel like with the Uther pickup, the poke isn't going to be necessarily as good as it would have been against the Brightwing, but it's still going to be good. Uther struggles with AoE healing.
Whoa,
and they go with the Malfurion.
Yeah, that's I did not expect the Malf. I was really feeling Brightwing myself, just knowing how much Akaface does play that hero in the pairing with Tassadar. There's a lot of control with those two combined.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I definitely would have expected a Brightwing or a Karazim.
Yeah.
Kind of as a follow-up DPS, because Greymane as a solo DPS isn't necessarily poor, but the margin of error is kind of skewed comparative to most compositions with more than one DPS. So going to be interesting. How is Panda Global going to be able to play this out here, Jake? I'm excited. I think both of these teams came in understanding very much what their opponent wanted and went with a beautiful prioritization to deny and also accent their own style of play.
Yeah, we've got the super sustain of the ETC paired with Stitches, very control-oriented. The hooks are going to be a big key element of that, but of course we've got those big controlling heroics. We've got Void Prison and Maw to really just buy yourself a lot of escape or a lot of time to respond as a team if a hook does go out, right? That VP can be used defensively in scenarios, but it's such a big cooldown, 120 seconds that you're throwing out.
Yeah.
That might not be all that valuable to capitalize on.
I definitely think that Malfurion pick is going to be crucial on how well that's played, largely because he does struggle into Zeratul specifically. And I think the logic behind it is, right, Lunara late game, right? They're going to make it to the later half of the game, and when that happens, she just has an absurd amount of damage, and it's spread damage, and it's a dot. So what if you just counter that with kind of a tranquility mentality, right? But in the early and mid game, until that late game spike comes out here, it's going to be very difficult to see how well the Malfurion is going to be able to do against that Zeratul.
All right, well, we do see Salmon on ETC. Michael Udall will be playing Tassadar. It's going to be a big impact on Greymane. Malfurion played by Akaface. Big hit is Stitches. That says Abathur right now, but that's okay. Zeratul going to be played by Goku. Johanna going to be Saray, Zix on Uther, KO on his legendary Zagara, and Soldier rounding it out on Lunara.
So when Deer playing the Deer, I mean, it's very fitting.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, we for so long have called him when it's SMG and Tempo because the one in his name, he is the So One Deer. So very fitting there to see him going to be playing out the Lunara and how he's going to be able to do it here. See him prepping there very severely. And again, I think.
All right, well, we're loading on into the game here. The first match of the tournament between Panda Global and Tempo Storm. And here we go. The North America Spring Regional about to begin.
Absolutely, and the first setup here is going to come down to a lot of who has the stronger early game when it comes between these two teams. Right out the gate, Tassadar is going to provide a lot of the double healer, double tank, a lot of sustain there. I don't think Tempo Storm is going to be able to deal with the battle directly here if they go head-to-head with this team. So I'd like to see them try and avoid that. Worry about the tri-lane. They have absurdly strong laners when it comes to their composition, and their opponents struggle a little bit on the wave clear battle.
All right, well, they are riding on out. The mount synergy is horrendous on these teams, so they lose the fashion show, both of them. No winners there, and the first match will be underway in just a moment. In terms of talents, we do see Knight takes pawn there on Johanna just for the additional lane clear, very common, and that's actually going to be perfect aim, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
on Greymane.
Yeah, no, and the perfect aim is going to accent that poking a little bit more. He won't have as much auto attack damage. He's going to be even more poke-centric, if you will, when it comes to that perfect aim template, versus, I believe the other name is Wolfheart there. So other than that, not too surprising to see some of the pickups out of these two teams. ETC going a little bit of the Q build there, and both are trying to figure out what they want to do. In the bottom half of the map, they are going to have a tri-lane there. The hook coming out, not quite there. The rotations are actually going to be won by Panda Global for now, but Saray coming in with a great condemn, trying to say, hey, you know, we have wave clear too, we're going to respond here.
Yeah, actually, you always see so much prioritization on lane clear, on Infernal Shrines in general with Moonburn, and I'm actually really excited to see this, slam build out of Stitches to see exactly if he specs into that through the whole game. I mean, he's not going for Hungry for More where he gets that massive health pool in the late game, even though there's no immediate threat for things like Giant Killer, things like Seven-Sided Strike. He's just opting to go for the damage with the double Warrior because they absolutely need it.
Yeah, and it's something that they're like I said, it struggles a little bit, questioning whether or not they would go with Brightwing or Karzim because their comp definitely needs a little bit of that extra DPS. Seven-Sided Strike was an option there, but again, the 1-4 being ran between these two teams, the wave clear is going to sit in the advantage of Tempo Storm, whereas they do struggle a little bit when it comes to kill potential. A lot of it's going to come down to those hooks and how it plays out, but again, that wave clear doesn't get that powerful, Jake, until they do hit level 7, that nature calling talent that I do expect to see out of Soldier here when it comes to this map.
Yeah, it's definitely a high-impact hero. We do see that first shrine spawning right now in the middle, and it will be a Mortar Punisher in this scenario, just 2 minutes in. Both teams currently just pacing around the mid and top lane, and Goku is continuing to soak bottom on Zeratul. Going to give them a slight edge if that isn't responded to.
Yeah, they're going to be worried a little bit more about XP than the fight. Remember, I was talking about that kill potential in the early game, and Tempo Storm accepts the fact that they don't really have that right now, trying to capitalize a little bit on the XP advantage there. Goku now going to make the rotation up to the shrines, but they've given up 15, Jake. And again, the wave clear their opponents struggle a little bit with is going to come down to Mouth. How they play this out is absolutely crucial. Again, wave clearing mid, worried about XP more than the shrine, because again, these infernals or these shrines really don't do that much. John Cena is going to leap over the wall and at most get a front wall.
Yeah, I mean, you always see basically they bait the Punisher to jump over the wall, and then they quickly have all 4 or 3 towers plus the fort focusing on it, and oftentimes you'll see all the forts, all the towers still sustained through that initiation of the Punisher.
Yeah, and I actually like that call from Tempo to decide to not take that skirmish and lane it out a little bit. I do think they failed to stop the rotation from Malfurion and ETC to the bottom half of the map, and it made them, it struggled a little bit. They do, you see, walk away with a smidge of a lead here when it comes to experience, but I feel like they could have denied a little bit more. Now, John Cena threatening down the middle lane. They do get 2 camps at the exact same time, going to be cleared out there, but again, they go with the passive game here, baited over the wall, not worry about the shrines, wait till they get that wave clear advantage that they do have at 7. Smart play coming up from Tempo.
All right, Goku going into the backside to try to flank quickly, blinking back to safety. And we do see ETC has cleaned up the Punishers in the bottom, so the mercenary camps that were picked up really didn't do that much. Actually, no, he's still cleaning them up. They might even get a tower out of this, and that ends up being an even trade. Tempo still ahead in XP.
Yeah, one thing I do want to point out is the Elun's Grace choice to be taken at level 7, or level 4, excuse me, for the Malfurion. What that really means is that they're going to sit in a situation where they're not going to be able to directly heal that Lunara like I thought the Malfurion pick was for. Instead, they're going to be worried about getting the follow-up route to the stun. Good dodge there from Soondir's Soldier there. But essentially, they're not going to have that healing to deal with that spread damage from Lunara in the later half of the game. I'm really interested to see why they decided to take Malfurion, but then choose Elun's Grace.
Okay, well, level 7 has just been picked up here. We do have a cleanse on Uther. Battle Momentum for Johanna to just maximize the capability to throw all the spells, and also Battle Momentum for the Zagara player. With Envenom Spines, just so much safety to poke ahead, and get those Hydralisks out at max efficiency.
Yeah, and there we go. We do see at level 7, as we were talking about this entire time, the Nature's Calling is going to come into play here. Also, Goku locking in the Vorpal Blade there, so he's going to have a little bit of a little dance kind of around with that level 4 talent there. Common build now in modern North American meta, but it is going to be interesting to see how he plays it and how well he gets around with it. Malfurion going with Enduring Growth, again, to deal with that Lunara damage.
Yeah, Enduring Growth, I mean, it just gives him so much more healing as a hero. Gilnean Cocktail build, pretty common, especially level 16 when you have Concentrated Blast, becomes quite powerful. We do have the first Fallen Shaman camp being picked up, but Ziggs is just stalling it out, waiting for that next shrine.
Great call here. We don't know where the shrine, it is going to spawn in the upper half of the map, sadly, so they aren't going to maximize the value there, but what they're essentially doing is trying to make sure that they get the camp to be effective while the map objective is there, right? Split pushing. If that is shrine and spawn on a different part of the map, they would be far, far ahead. So I like this call. Tempo, again, showing that they've come into this game with a game plan. Everything about it is very much, it seems calculated. They knew what they were going to do before this game started, and I like to see that out of them.
And while they were waiting for that camp to cap it, they actually had the Wisp of Lunara waiting in the opposite side camp. So just kind of sitting in position, making sure that it was not being captured by their opponents. So they wanted to know exactly what they were up against, and they moved it once they expected the rotation to come up. And now with Tempo having this big half-level lead going towards level 10, it puts Panda Global in a really odd situation where they can't really engage.
Yeah, see, they have a situation that was a beautiful Shaman camp. So what it's doing is stalling the fact that they have no wave clear and they have to clear on the upper half of the map. Panda Global is doing that. Meanwhile, Tempo Storm soaking all the lanes with their better wave clear than their opponents. They've done that for the first shrine. They do it for the second shrine. And guess what? Here we are. We're now in a situation where Tempo Storm has the 10 advantage, and they're going to be able to lock in this John Cena. Keep in mind, it still won't be that effective quite yet because the scaling is rather weak in the early half. But Tempo, again, really calculated play here. I love to see this. Methodical in approaching the game smart.
Thornward Vine, Divine Shield, we have Void Prison, Blessed Shield, and Maw as the heroics for Tempo Storm. Nearly there for heroic abilities on Panda Global, and if they manage to take out a tower or two, it will be enough experience for them to secure their heroics.
Yeah, and so we're in a situation where we do see Panda Global is going to be pushing the bottom half of the map to take out a front wall. Tempo Storm, meanwhile, resolving on pushing the upper half. Look at this damage here. The Nature's Calling just eating at it. So they are going to hit 10 advantage here, but whether or not they're going to continue to push with John Cena at the keep wall is going to be really questionable here from Tempo. It will help them a little bit because they do have, again, that Nature's Calling the wave clear, but realistically, past that front wall, they're not going to get much more, and I'm afraid they might overextend. Sieging into a Stitches is very difficult, Jake.
Yeah, okay, so this Punisher, he is at full health. Now they're going to bait him over the wall. He's going to burn down pretty quick, but it might enable him to get a tower or two. If you take out both towers, it's 1,300 experience. It's more than a fort, which is 1,200 XP. So the value really, really showing here out of Tempo Storm as this Punisher doesn't do too much except for buy time for Tempo to eliminate the wall.
And this is what I was talking about, maybe overextending a little bit too much, sieging into a Stitches. They must dodge this hook or a team fight might be taken. There you go, Someone Deer with a really good juke there on that Lunara skin. Master Lunara there walking away barely with her life there, so I do like that. That was really well done. And again, the camp going to be contested now between these two teams, and this is a little risky for Tempo. Well, they haven't hit their power spike yet.
I mean, you got to think about Force Wall, Mosh Pit, Putrid Battle. There's so much control on the side of Panda Global, but we do see Srey in the front line really just buying all the damage for the team. Big Blast Shield, BP goes down, and they're focusing on Beacon. Beacon falls before the train can keep him alive. Akaface now being chased by Soldier in the back. The huge damage from the poison, but the tranquility is sufficient. A two-man Mosh buying the healer out of the fight, so no heals there on the side of Ziggs, and go for the throat goes in, but it's not quite enough. Big Impact is over, coming into the Hammer of Justice. Will not be enough as the heal comes out from Akaface at the last moment, and they secure themselves the camp.
That was really well done by both teams. Honestly, the first half of the fight was extremely well played on the side of Tempo Storm, ensuring the fact that because of the talents taken by that ETC, we see Goku might actually be under.
Blink, is it ready? Oh, it's not going to be enough with the Vorpal Plate. The heals there from Ziggs, and he does manage to top him off.
And so a lot of that came down to Tempo Storm with the Malfurion build. Like I was talking about, Malf is weak against the Zeratul. there. He had no ability to keep that Stitches alive there, and they go in, they execute, they get Stitches low, they pop the Trank, but it's not enough to deal with that. Even with rampant growth, questionably would have been worth it, but still a situation where they started out the team fight great, but then the isolation on the back line, Tempo Storm was not able to confirm a kill. Their focus fire was very, very weak, and that's a little bit of the downside of Lunara. Those low health bars baited them in to overextend a little bit, and Panda Global punishes them for it. Really well done on their part. They don't have necessarily a big lead yet, and the power spike hasn't been hit for Tempo, but they definitely showed that they know how to deal with this style of composition.
Okay, well, level 13 just now being reached for Tempo Storm. They're going to pick their talent. Strength Rate is going to give them a little bit more control of this battle. And Saray opting to go for an aggressive mercenary camp here on the right side.
Yeah, they're going to be trying to cap this while they have a little bit of the downtime. The map objective is going to be hovered here for a little bit, but they don't have too much to worry about. It's a lot of just the downtime is going to be trying to min-max your experience and your advantage wherever you possibly can, and that Merc Camp is where they're going to start that. Again, the lack of wave clear on their side here. Giant Killer's picked up for Soldier. That's going to be interesting. Watch his auto attacks, and his 16 I think is going to change a little bit now accordingly into that double tank. I do like the pickup, but spread damage is the name of the game here. How well the Trank and everything else is going to be. Keep in mind, Jake, Mosh Pit is 5-second cooldown.
Ooh, yeah, just about right. But the VP on 3 targets. Goku making the play. The rotation from Tempo is very slow because Psalm is just able to zone them out entirely. And the Void Prison gets no value whatsoever.
Yeah, that's huge. That means that if they stay to contest this, they might actually lose the fight. Because keep in mind, that Trank is what gives them the advantage, or that ultimate is what gives them the advantage over the Trank here. If they fight without that and Trank comes out, they're going to be in a rough spot here. They are definitely dancing with the devil here right now with Tempo Storm.
The Skeletal Defenders very even, 35-31. It's anyone's game for this Punisher. Superior control of the position right now by Panda Global, but the poke from Lunara trying to blow them down. A big mosh interrupted very quickly. One more needed for Tempo, and Tempo secures it. Now Panda Global is very overextended as John Cena could jump in. The Maw onto a single target. Psalm is getting burst. He falls. Goku in the front. The Trank has been popped. The pull-in from the Condemned, but Akaface is falling, but the Force Wall does close them out.
Oh, the nice ice block there, but will it be enough? It will. He will walk away. I just want to say that was really well done on the part of Michael Dahl using the site to try and zone Zeratul, but Goku walking in, confirming the last 2 in order to get to John Cena there, and just really well done in that team fight, getting a little bit aggressive. Good job there overall. But honestly, I've been very, very impressed with how well they played that, worried about the map objective even without it. And honestly, losing the team fight there shows a little bit of a misplay on the side of Panda Global on the sense that they didn't have Void Prison, one of the strongest ults and really almost necessary in the early half of this game for Tempo Storm, and they lost it. And how well that's going to be played out in the later half makes me fearful because, again, that power spike for Lunara is not quite there yet. And if you're already struggling against the comp from Tempo Storm, they just need to make sure that they engage properly and they get the fights that they want. Because Tranquility, again, Jake, you saw come out after somebody was dead. And that without the build, without that rampant growth, he's pretty much a walking Tranquility.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just such a big part of his healing. Even with the upgrades they've made to regrowth recently, Trank is just so very massive. Well, Tempo Storm now really starting to snowball ahead. They're full level ahead. They need to get level 16 to really flex their advantage, but they're trying to grab their fallen shaman. Now we do see the Khazar camp will be collected here by Panda Global to buy them a bit of presence, but Lunara is just patiently waiting at that bottom fort for those minions to come in because Soldier does expect this very much.
Absolutely, and I'd like to see Tempo Storm really concentrate on pushing their 16 tier advantage here. It's a long enough lead, and they have good enough siege that I feel like they're going to be able to make something big happen here. Their ultimates are up, their opponents are as well, but again, that 16 advantage should be enough to ensure a minimum of a keep wall here, preferably almost an entire keep. You do see there they go. They're going to group in the 5-man, rotate to the bottom half of the map, and they're going to take, instead of taking a keep and risking getting hooked in a big team fight there, they're going to take the safer decision on the bottom half of the map here. I do like this call from them, a little bit safer than I'd like to see, but again, there's so much on the line. These teams are not going to take any risks. They don't have to, Jake.
Yeah, all right, so Starward Spear picked up the pair with Giant Killer. It's going to give Soldiers just so much big range poke, and Psalm caught a bit out of position. We see the Singularity Spike slowing him down. We do see the Shrink Rate goes down, and the burst will go through, and Psalm gets picked way off.
That is going to be a really struggling situation here. So again, that siege and that punishment that we wanted to see Tempo get here with the 16 tier advantage. Now they have 30 seconds. That most likely is going to be the keep wall here on the bottom half of the map. The map objective is going to spawn, but look at that. Soldier says, I'm going to get that free poke. Nature's Calling taking an absurd amount of damage on the bottom half of the map already. He just threw out one ultimate, and that was all it took. took. They're going to get the clear here. They have the 16-tier advantage, and they have 10-second advantage when it comes to the Shrine here. So it will give them roughly a 15 lead if they rotate early enough, which you do see them capping when it comes to the Punisher. Not necessarily the best, but definitely good enough when it considered the lack of wave clear on the side of Panda Global.
All right, but we got to remember, there is no greater spell block here for Soldier.
Okay.
And with Concentrated Blast on Greymane, that is so much burst.
Yes.
So if Soldier isn't careful, that Greymane can hit him with a big Concentrated Blast and
Yes.
go in with Go for the Throat and pretty much secure a kill.
Absolutely. It's going to all come down to how well the Void Prison and how well the Divine Shield come out in these type of situations. Goku's positioning is absolutely crucial at this point of the game, and you do see they make the late rotation, getting no advantage here when it comes to Shrine. Only a level advantage, and both teams are now 16. This is where it's going to happen. This fight is going to dictate the rest of this game here, Jake.
Tempo once again just kind of backing off, waiting for that big Void Prison. You see Goku is just lurking in the shadows at the bottom of the screen, just fading even further, goes in with a blink, gets on out. And right now he's just trying to find that Oracle has been used from Tassadar. So once that expires, it's going to be a big open playing field. But the hook on KO, the big initiative is forcing out the Divine Shield. Just a single VP target on Malfurion, not the big value they want. And that is a big trade here in favor of Panda Global. Initiating with the power slide. B-Kid is very low. The Tranquility is not enough to save him. And the Maw connected. No one but forcing ETC back into position. The body blocks are critical. But that Tranquility is paying off for Panda Global.
Absolutely, the Tranquility. The Mosh is going to come out, secure 2 people here, Jake. They might be going down here. Srey is going to be struggling. Bambi there is going to go down to the backside of the field there. And then Zeratul as well. Goku's going to die out. Srey is trying to get out of the situation as best as they possibly can and surviving through that Tranquility again. Really powerful there. You saw the engage. KO getting out of position, caught up a little bit there. And the minute that happened, they burnt all of their ultimates to try and keep him. That was D-Shield and Void Prison used at the exact same time. And that's why Tempo wasn't able to win that fight, because Trank is so influential. But here they go, Jake.
Yeah, huge power slide, and KO gets locked in by the Force Ball, and he is now a sitting duck. The heals, the peels from Zix are sufficient, and KO is trying to get away. The Concentrated Blast doing critical damage, but Srey is able to stay on back. Iron Skin isn't enough. The body blocks are huge from Psalm, but somehow Zix is able to keep him standing all during this big fight. There has been a mercenary camp in the mid lane, pressuring the keep of Panda Global.
Yeah, it hasn't done that much because 2 of the camps have essentially died, so they haven't been able to get that much here. Temple Storm now needing to cut their losses in this situation. John Cena will get a little bit, but it's only going to be a fort. Look at that XP on bottom. Goku sees it. He sees it's a little bit tasty. He wants to get that. That's huge for Temple Storm. If they lost that XP, they would lose their advantage at this situation with John Cena. So by capturing this XP, this was colossal to say that Temple Storm still, as long as they don't get picked, will be far ahead. But honestly, them contesting this 4 vs 5, Goku showed on bottom. This is a huge misplay on the side of Tempo. If they get picked here, they might set themselves far behind, Jake.
They need to be careful. They're playing very passively. You see Bambi just kind of poking away at John Cena, as that is their 2 pet names. Goku just about up here. The Wisp coming in to reveal that no one's in that bush, but Psalm has been spotted. Gildan and Cocktail being thrown out in the bottom left did not connect onto Goku on Zeratul, but they're pushing in hard. Soldier locked out by the Force Ball, but the focus wasn't there.
Yeah, and it's a situation where they've not gained too much because John Cena and the scaling are a little bit too much. This map always goes to the late game, but you were talking about that camp in the mid lane. It just now has drained half the turrets. It's drained half the turrets, but it actually hasn't been able to manage to get anything. It's only gotten like half a turret and half the ammo out of both of them. But again, Tempo Storm soaking that bottom lane was absolutely crucial to their success here. Now they need to play safe. Wait till the race to 20. Honestly, they have a full level lead over their opponents, and the pick comp is really all they want here. The shrines will spawn roughly when Tempo has 20 and when their opponents only have 19. So any risk taken over the next couple of minutes here before the shrine is going to be really terrifying on the side of Tempo Storm here.
All right, I'm pretty sure that Goat Boy has at least 40 kills, but now the Force Wall on Srey. Blood Shield goes out defensively, but the roots are there at the perfect time. Srey is doing his best to get out, but we do see the huge Putrid Bile and Maw used defensively. 2 heroics cast by Tempo Storm to try to get out in just the Putrid Bile from Stitches. That is a big win for Panda Global.
Absolutely, it's a huge win in that type of situation, but again, they didn't succeed with getting the pick, which would have been a absurd advantage that they would have gotten in this type of the game. Again, the race to 20 is still lost because they didn't get in the XP. Meanwhile, Soldier and Goku on the bottom half of the map have been soaking. They have two camps now pushing in the mid lane, almost no turret to deal with it, and they're a little bit of lack of wave clear. It won't be contested, but again, they have so much pressure, and the map objective is now going to spawn pretty soon here, honestly. And look at Goku going to the upper half. They're going to have 20 advantage. Contention over this is going to be very risky. The isolation, the mosh pit, the force wall we were talking about. If Tempo decides to fight in this and don't properly use their 20 advantage, they might risk the game here. They don't have ultimates up.
We learned two things right here. We learned that 1 go is better than 6.
Yes.
And we also learned that level 20 gives you a big advantage. And if you're able to soak and get that, it's well worth it.
Absolutely.
So although we saw that big focus out of Panda Global in the top, they lost so much potential soak, and now Tempo has a huge window. This Mortar Shrine, not having Storm Challenge on the side of Panda Global, is going to make it near impossible to win this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is a situation where they are going to wait out most likely to get 20 unless they get a very big hook there when it comes to Stitches. Keep in mind, no fishing hook out of him, so he does not have that huge pick potential that he would have. Instead, he's kind of a CC team fight oriented Stitches in his build. So they are going to have the ability to get on this cap, but because how long it takes, they might be able to get 20 before contestation here. If they do, expect a very, very hard engage on the side of Panda Global. 20 deep already, Jake. It might not actually be enough. They're wave clear, and Soak just being a little bit too slow here. There they go. They hit it, but is it going to be, I think it might be a little bit too late.
All right, Bolt on ETC gives him a lot of options. We actually see the Hunter's Blunderbuss, I believe that is, on to Grayman, giving him a lot of splash damage from afar. And that big shield of the Storm can, of course, keep the team alive when Tranquility's being popped. Tempo does secure themselves this Punisher. In that mid lane, we saw the mercenary camps really push it out, really lower the ammunition. It's going to be hard to keep this keep alive.
Absolutely. Now watch this team fight that's going to break out here. A lot of it's going to come down to 3 ultimates. We're going to see Mosh Pit, we're going to see Divine Shield, and we're going to see Void Prison. If Divine Shield and Void Prison are used at the same time, most likely the Tempo Storm will walk away having a hard time winning this team fight. Soldier's health bar is absolutely crucial here, Jake, and here they go. They have the siege. Nature's Calling is huge at this point of the game. How well are they going to be able to walk away with it?
They're burning through the keep like it's nothing. Panda Global knows they can't defend it, but they want to try to find a pick here. You see B-Kid's just going to be looking for that hook, pacing around. Once the keep falls, it might provide an opportunity. Goku, is he going to get hooked? No, B-Kid just is worried about that Punisher and keeping it off their core.
Yeah, and that was really good. They decided to walk away from that situation. Tempo Storm understanding that they have no potential to kill the core there. And really a smart choice there. Again, calculated decision-making coming from them. But what this does now is risk another situation where their opponents are going to be on even footing. Here we see Goku showed in the upper half of the map, so they do know everybody on the bottom half is a 4 vs 5. They are going to start the camp here on the bottom half of the map, and if they do scout it out, they aren't going to. Panda Global, you see them, they're thirsty.
Yeah,
they're looking for it.
The Wisp has been scouting around trying to find them. They just checked the fallen, or the Khazra camp on the right side of the map. Didn't find them, but now it just does find them. But it's a little bit late. We do see the Iron Skin used very early for Saray, trying to keep this alive. Ice Block and Tranquility both being popped incredibly prematurely in this battle, and they can just disengage from here.
Absolutely, and then they're going to wait for the prime example of prime situation to re-engage. Void Prison, wait for it. Goku is going for it, but he risked it.
He's getting stunned. The VP on 3 targets. Is it enough? D-Shield to get him out. 2 heroics have been spent. Stitches popping the future battle in the back. I hear them yelling. Goku's able to blink away and a big maw on the mouth to deny those heals. But can they get a target in time? Goku flies on in. The heals from Aquaface, and he gets picked off early. A huge start by Panda Global. Soldier getting it very low, but the shrink rate is there on Big Impact, denying him his juicy target, Bambi. Force ball just onto Saray. Not enough to burn him down, but the power slide does connect. But he has to immediately back on out.
Again, that was a situation where we saw Void Prison and D-Shield were used at the same time, and it's really hard to get away with that. You see them dancing. They do get a lot of spread poke. This is Lunara's late game spike. She's ripping their team apart. There is no Tranquility to be able to heal it up at this time, and they're trying to make something happen. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, a camp has been pushing with 2 catapults. It will get away with the shields here, I believe, but not much. Note, the camp does actually die there before that case, so they aren't going to even get an advantage anywhere there. But Goku had the right mentality there, right? He went in and he was trying to get a Void to force the fight, but the only problem was that he risked his positioning because he hesitated on the Void to the point where his team no longer had the advantage, and they stacked their cooldowns once more into a situation where they're no longer in the lead. And now this Shrine, we have 30 seconds on Void Prison, so there's going to be a 20-second gap here on when Void Prison is no longer up, and the team fight might be able to break out here, Jake.
It's just going to be so tough because the lanes are so pushed out. So I think Tempo Storm should be safe here. They got a couple mercenary camps. The lanes are completely pushed out. They have to be worried about that mid lane because of the catapults. The shield did take a lot of damage, now recharging on the side of Panda Global, but Tempo is going to get another big lead here, and this time it's an Arcane Punisher. When it comes to these fights when you have those tethers just spinning around doing huge damage to your team, it's like playing Diablo 3. You suddenly have to worry about dodging all these things on the map.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're going to have the camp sieging up in their favor a little bit here too, so you can probably expect the team fight. There's the site, wait for the site go down, and then look for a good harassment here. The map objective now that you see the Shaman camp pushing in their favor, they're going to take a while to clear it out. Expect Goku to get a poke here, whether it be on Tassadar, Stitches, Grayman, or Mouth, anybody but ETC there, but if he gets out of position, it's going to be really risky. Here's the fight here, Jay.
Yeah, you see something waiting for that flame. blank, but the moment that Sray steps on in, that's just signals Goku and Soldier to do some damage. Bolt has to be used by KO with a big hook on Beacon, but 16 seconds before that ability is back in action, and Goku once again being very patient on the bottom right side. Void Prison, it is in fact ready. Thorn, everything's good and ready to roll on the side of Tempo, and we do see that Force Wall once again back in action, but they force Tempo back.
You saw a situation, though. We just saw Bolts use on the side of ETC. Rewind was used on the side of Goku there. So now we see that both of those, and we're going to miss their 20-tier advantage. And honestly, I feel like Rewind is absolutely crucial when it comes to the picks, but that Bolts as a counter mosh is going to be crucial, too. So how this is going to play out for this 20 team fight, Jake, how well they're going to be able to use the fact that their opponents do not have the same advantage here, it's going to be crucial. So Sray moving in, trying to force this team fight, Jake.
Yeah,
a little bit risky. See Goku again with the poke. This is going to be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, they're trying to get Tranquility to be used early, but Akaface is being very hesitant on using it. He knows that Tempo can really take the advantage if that happens. But Tempo this time managed to get Panda Global off of the shrine. They did manage to collect 19 of those skulls, and the catapults are going to become an issue in that mid lane as the shields are starting to get chunked down. Once again, 3 full catapults have built up. So this is kind of like a timer that Tempo has put on their opponents from that early keep they grab.
Yeah, but how this map works is it shouldn't actually be able to threaten the core that much, at least for a long period of time. It's not going to burst it all down at once. Goku going in, not getting any harass with that blink. That's a long cooldown that he's going to be missing there. Sray's going to force it. Keep in mind, Void Prison hasn't been used, and he has no blink to get the advantage on his mobility. Sray's going to back out there. I like that call, but Temple Storm's health bars are significantly lower than their opponents. This is very risky. The poke from Greymane.
They do have Indestructible, and they do have Redemption, so they do have something they can use to their advantage. Sray might be popping that Indestructible right now to stay alive. There it goes. So Johanna, that's a huge cooldown. That Panda Global just made it out, and wow, that Gilnean cocktail almost took him out.
Absolutely. Now Tempo Storm realizing that they can't deal with this situation, dancing around a little bit too long, understanding that they have nothing left here. They're going to make a risky rotation here and try and take the Shaman camp. Whether or not they're going to be able to get away with this, I don't know. It looks like they're gonna. All right, so they do get the camp. It's not going to really gain them anything. All right. But it's not going to. It essentially is a deny from their opponents there. They're going to wait. They were going to try and stack those 2 camps there. So the deny there with the Immortal, they were going to stack them together. Shaman and Immortal will no longer be synergistic here on the side of Panda Global. But realistically, Tempo, a lot of it just comes down to they have the comp to win this game, but their execution just seems a little bit off.
All right, so Tassadar has actually been holding out on grabbing the last Skeletal Defender to grab this Arcane Punisher. And this is so that they can go back, get some mana, and maximize their push. They know they have the time to just wait it out. There's no necessity to get this Punisher as fast as possible because they'd rather have the biggest push that they can get.
And see, Tempo Storm now is making a really smart call, in my opinion. What they're doing is they're threatening core, and then Tassadar sighted, and now they're going to back out and get free clear on John Cena. That was honestly, that shows an experienced team right there, some kind of call like that, where they have the double pressure on the core, and instead you just bait it over. Now John Cena, instead of risking a 5 versus 5 on their keep, by fake threatening the core there, what they do is they put themselves in a situation to where now, guess what? We get free clear. You're not only not going to be able to win the game here, but you're not even going to get a keep out of the situation.
It's huge.
So, no, that was great shot calling out from the side of Temple Storm. It was really well done on their half, understanding their lead. And now, how well they take this team fight again, the D-Shield, the Void Prison, how it plays out here.
So that's like kind of a cool response to, you know, Panda Global. They're like, hey, we have all this extra time to buy to go back and maximize our push, but that gave Tempo so much time to get in position to pressure that. So they actually punished Panda Global for their decision to stall out the Punisher. So it's just a very, very high-level dance happening between these two teams. We will see the final mercenary camp be picked up here on the side of Tempo, painting the map blue. Literally every mercenary camp will be under control by Tempo at this point in time.
Yeah, it's really good on their side for them overall. It makes them be in a situation where their opponents are reacting to them rather than the other way around. Sray is going to get caught out one more time here. How well Tempo Storm's going to be able to respond here. They're not actually, they're going to delay. They're going for core.
Oh my goodness. Now Sray, even if he has Indestructible here, his life is just about forfeit. The body blocks are massive, but he is buying so much time for the team. Meanwhile,
keep in mind,
Tempo Storm has entered the base of Panda Global, and they are going on the core, a 5-man hearth. They're going in VP, like you said, to
they're
lock
going to VP when they get back.
Oh my goodness. The core has lost its shield. The VP on 2 targets. Stitches gets the hook in. So that is a nice small victory. They're using Force Wall to push them back. Has Tempo thrown.
There it is.
Oh, the Maw on 2 targets. The core is down to 35%. Tempo Storm has taken game number 1.
Temple Storm walks away with an insane backdoor decision there with the delay coming from Sray. That was absolutely phenomenal on their side. I can't believe they were able to do that. That was really well done. The Void Prison using VP, using the Maw in order to be an isolation tool to ensure the fact that they can win that game, using Indestructible. That was honestly top tier shot calling and decision making. They, for the first time, that was the only time they felt like they were on the same page that game, and they walk away with a win for it, Jake. That was phenomenal game 1 for this tournament.
Johanna is one of the only heroes in the game that could could make something like that happen.
Yes.
Between having Iron Skin and Indestructible, he bought so much time. They picked up the kill, and they just saw the 4 other members of Tempo in their base. They were probably expecting the rotations, thinking, man, we got this pick, this is huge, we're going to go and win the game here. But Tempo, with the master strats, busting it out, baiting them, and destroying them.
It was one of those things where they made a call that was very high risk, high reward. It was, if you notice where they decided to make that call, they took it all the way from their Shaman camp. It's not like Tempo was sitting on the other opponent's side of the map and they're like, oh, just go core, just go core. They're all here. It was legitimately, they were within reason to be like, we can reasonably react to what Tempo Storm, or what their Panda Global is doing right now. Void Prison has started a fight where we're on the back foot, but they don't here. And here you see Void Prison coming out here. That was a huge turning point when it came to this game. A lot of it came down to whether or not Void and Uther's D-Shield were used together here, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, we saw countless times just the VP and then the follow-up of the Maw and the follow-up of the Bless Shield, that staggered control. When it was used effectively, Tempo Storm was really dictating the pace of the fight. They had better control of the shrines in general. I think they got almost double the number of Punishers as the side of Panda Global, and this pressure from the mid-keep that they had early really did add up nicely for them, but then it all came down to that bait of Srey in the top lane, enabling Tempo to pressure the core and burn it down. And that secured game number 1 in their favor.
Absolutely, it was phenomenal play on their part. And again, they had the composition to do it. A lot of it came down to, you can't just make that call whenever you want. Like, a lot of it came down to VP, Maw, and Uther. Those are some of the greatest tools that you can have on that situation to walk away with a win, to be able to Void, to be able to Maw. The isolation, then Uther is a great tank, because not only that, like when you're like, okay, we'll kill the guy who's taking the core, but then Uther goes, nope, Chuck Tesla, level 20, I'm just going to come back to life. So you kill him, he heals his team even better than if he was alive, and then he comes back and he's still got D-Shield. You're like, how do we do this? He's one of the best core rushers in the game, so they had a perfect comp to do it and capitalize flawlessly at the end of the game.
Well, the power of the draft there on Infernal Shrines, I mean, we know that's a big map for Panda Global, but Tempo, of course, can bring it back, taking one of their primary heroes on the side, Lunara. Of course, we know Panda likes Lunara a lot, but they did have Stitches. But I'm very curious to see what map we go to next. Now, who actually has the choice? Is it Tempo that picks the map and first pick for Panda? Is that how it works, or Panda picks the map?
In this situation, the last map pick went to Panda, and I don't know if it's, I think it's a swap no matter what in this type of situation.
Okay.
And so that was, I believe that was Panda, at least just because that was kind of their home territory. We saw that Tempo really likes Cursed Hollow, and whether or not they decide that they want to maneuver their way onto that Cursed Hollow for those tributes. And I think that last game kind of shows why they like Cursed Hollow, really. It's one of those maps that you can make shot calling outplays to the point where you walk away with a win.
Well, we do have word that Tomb of the Spider Queen will be the next map in this best-of-3 series. Now, Panda Global, they're down, but they're not out. This is a double elim tournament right now in this phase. During the group stage, it's double elimination, so they have a chance in the best-of-3. If they lose, they fall to an elimination match in the lower bracket. And it's far from over, because they can certainly bring it back first Tempo, because that was not in any way a one-sided match. Completely even.
It wasn't. And I think, again, the biggest thing that I'm worried about when it comes to this next game is the Zeratul. I think that this hero is going to be such high contention and influence. Not only that, because both of these teams absolutely love him and he's a great hero, but I think a lot of it's going to come down to the map specific. I know that there's a situation for both of these teams where there's a really unique composition that you can pull out with Zeratul on this kind of map, and whether or not they're going to be looking to whip it out, I don't know.
Is this a secret comp you're going to tell me?
It's not one that's never been played before, but it's one that rarely does.
I'm like trying to theory craft on the spot and failing miserably, but we do see Goku is very strong on that hero. He was a key element in those fights. You'd see Srey go in, buy the attention of Panda Global, just kind of pressure, and that was Goku's sign to just go on in for those flanks, pressure Malfurion. Every single time.
Every time.
Malfurion was the target because of how hard it is to eliminate those big tanks. Tassadar is going to slip away from almost anything. But Malfurion, not a very mobile hero. He forced out a couple ice blocks. He forced out a couple roots that didn't get any benefit whatsoever because he just blinked in time. So we'll have to see exactly how Panda Global wants to respond in this next map. Now, Tomb of the Spider Queen, generally speaking, it's much smaller. Much smaller.
No, the 1-4 is a strategy that's really viable. We saw it kind of on the last map, but it's not necessarily the go-to by any means because of the influence that it has on the map. So 1-4 is going to be something that we most likely are going to see out of these teams when it comes to this map. And it really changes how the game plays out. It's not nearly as... how do I say this? It's not nearly about kind of like that split soaking anymore. It's a lot of it comes down to, can you outwave clear? Can you kill your opponents? And if you can't, the levels 1 through 9, especially on a map where the turn-in can have heavy influence on who gets that early XP lead, it's going to be crucial on how they play that out here. But I'm going to say that I think that if whatever team wins the 4-man is going to walk away with a win in this game. I think this map, how these teams are going to play it out, it's going to be absolutely crucial the 1-4 is done properly.
So you're talking about 1-4, and that means we talk about very high priority solo lane heroes.
Yes.
You talk about Zagara, Tassadar, Thrall. Do you think there's just a much higher contention for those roles?
I do think the contention for them is definitely going to be higher. I don't know if I would say that it's going to be the utmost, like where it's going to be higher than every other hero in the game, but I definitely do think it's going to have heavy influence when it does come to the draft. Heroes like you said, the Zag, the Thrall. There are others like Sonya. Tassadar is decent in the solo lane, but mainly Thrall and Zagara. They just absolutely crush their opponents.
Right. Just
and
so strong in lane.
it's a great chokehold point when it comes to the draft, and it manipulates the draft very heavily at the top level heroes.
So as for warriors, we often talk about ETC and Murden being kind of the kings of the warrior role. Stitches is very much up there, but Johanna sees a lot more played on this map in particular, and we just saw Templestorm use Johanna very, very well.
Yeah.
So you think she's a little bit higher prioritized just because of her ability to rotate? She's a good bank, right?
Yeah.
You put all the gems on her, and she's so hard to kill.
No,
so
yeah.
she's just like having a nice, safe little piggy bank.
Yeah, no, she is a good bank. I don't know if I would say that I think, how do I say this? I don't think that Johanna is going to be higher priority because of her wave clear, because you saw her play last time. I think you're going to look for your wave clear in other heroes, but if you struggle to get it in those other ones, you'll recover with her. I don't think she usually is kind of like first pick JoJo. She does have that great wave clear, and everybody knows, but it's like, what if I could get a better hero that provides a little bit of wave clear, and you kind of like get 5 picks that have a little bit, and it adds up to good wave clear. But if you don't manage to get those, then you're kind of like, okay, we'll just take JoJo. We'll make it a safe play later in the draft.
All right, well, I'll be shocked if we don't see something like Jaina picked in this. Those mages, Jaina, Li Ming, Kale Foss, they're still very strong heroes, even though not a single one of them were picked in that last game. Very unorthodox for heroes in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. Yeah, absolutely. The heroes, everything about kind of this draft and this draft, the next draft, like I said, I think this whole tournament is going to be a little not what we're used to. I really do think that we have, within this tournament, we see it in almost every level of competitive play when all the top teams get together. It kind of, what we knew and held true and knew what we thought we knew about the game just goes out the window. And we say, you know what, actually, I think this is how the game's going to be played. For the first time, though, like I said, I feel like it pulls from other regions. I've never felt like North America decided to kind of learn from the other regions. They do at certain moments and with certain heroes, but overall, it feels like everyone is pulling from what the other regions have done over the past couple of weeks.
Well, once again, guys, remember, you can tweet at me at SolidJakeGG, and you can tweet at Dreadnought at TempoDread with who you think will win this matchup, but be sure to use the hashtag HGC for the Heroes Global Championship, as this is a big process. We're now finalizing this weekend the top 2 teams in North America that will advance to the World Finals in Korea later this spring.
Absolutely, and like you said, it's just so much on the line for all of these teams and how well they're going to be able to play it out here. It's phenomenal, and I'm excited to see game number 2, Tomb of the Spider Queen. Different style map, different style play. Who's going to step up? Panda Global, like, are they going to pull out a pocket here? You were talking about it earlier. Like, is this the time? Are they going to wait it out?
They've got their serious faces on.
I mean, yeah.
You can see licking their lips in anticipation for this draft, thinking about Brightwing. Akaface, it's just all he does. He dreams and thinks about that hero.
Absolutely. Oh, man. And Udall, I think, is going to be really influential when it comes to the rest of this draft again, because on these smaller maps, we know that he is prioritizing some of those melee assassins. I personally remember him from Kerrigan way back in the day when Kerrigan was kind of a go-to. He was a big player there, and on the smaller maps, those type of heroes become far more relevant than on the bigger ones, just because the ganking and the kill potential is far different. She does struggle in the wave clear, which is why people kind of pull away from her, and she's not necessarily the great in the later half of the game, but
Kerrigan, just in general, if you dive in and you miss your combo, she's a sitting duck.
Good night, my sweet
It's
prince.
such a huge risk for the hero. I mean, even with the siphoning impact and for the Ravage build, her lane clear gets better, but it's still so risky because it's just the combo, and especially with the cleanse change too.
Yeah,
it's kind of a big nerf to her.
No,
even if it's
a
1 minute cooldown, it's still. You just cast cleanse.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that like the entire meta chain CC comp, meta just died, not died, but got hurt definitely because of cleanse changes. But we do see Right out the gates, what I was talking about, Zeratul. I think it's a key point for both of these teams, and they open up with a ban on Panda Global.
I mean, we call that a respect ban. They saw the power of Goku, and they're just like, no.
I don't think it's a respect when they both want it so bad, but they're not. They're not. What they just said is we're not confident. Not so much confident. We don't think he's good enough to first pick. We don't want to first pick him. At all is what they said, but like because we know you're going to take it in the first rotation, so we're just going to straight up ban it out there. So like it was respect, but you know they want it just as bad as Tempo.
So no Dark Templars and no Ray Gods. The Wolf Master himself is gone. And Zag, yeah, just early presence for, you talk about Maw being very good, but push is very good, and presence, just the vision you get from Crepe Spread is invaluable on any map.
Absolutely, and again, we're talking about those dominant solo laners. She's one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a little bit of prioritization on Thrall. It's going to be, that is the only thing that I think is existing still in the North American meta that isn't pulling from the other regions.
Really?
Thrall almost sees zero play in certain parts of the world. Whereas in America, or North America, it's one of those things where a lot of people definitely pulled to it there. So I don't know if I see it this early in the draft. I definitely think wave clear.
Oh, there he is.
Well, you know, hey, you know, I
the
guess.
War Chief.
I guess.
So, I mean, Thrall, there's two real ways to play him, two common ways at least, a very defensive style, and then there's the whole poke with Chain Lightning and go for Wind Fury in 13 and 16 to have that big, heavy burst. So they go for the match made in heaven. There was, when they released these two heroes at BlizzCon 2 years ago, they actually were on a poster together. I think Thrall and Jaina are actually like secret lovers.
It could be the case here, but Panda Global with the response, I really do like the Mage. She provides wave clear Jaina, and then Thrall, again, great in the solo lane, not willing to risk that getting banned out, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a very heavy-oriented kind of Tassadar. I want to say Tassadar style play out of them. It does pull away a little bit from Panda Global's damage, but it's something. There it is. And Sonya.
Well, Tassadar twice in a row now. Talk about a lot of control. Once again, Panda Global just prioritizing control in general. They want to have so much of that. And yeah, Sonya, she's just so good at fighting over the shrines, being in your face. Tassadar Sonya is a match made in heaven. And she's a good bank. We talk about heroes like piggy bank heroes that are just good at holding a lot of gems. With Rhaegar being banned out, obviously she's a big priority. But they could go for Johanna this early as well if they're feeling it.
Absolutely. But just the only reason I feel like Sonya is going to be something that they're looking for is mainly because when you ban Zeratul and you pick Thrall on your opponent's side, there's not too many melee assassins that are necessarily relevant left. You can run a double tank, which we saw last game. It's not like they need to, but if they do want one, I feel like this is going to be the stage where they decide to pick it. They can also, like you said, Johanna's not a terrible pick in this situation. Any form of wave clear of any kind is honestly a nice pickup when it comes to the Panda Global's comp.
Yeah, in the past, we'd see a lot more Leoric prioritized, but he's really, really fallen off, especially in North America. And there is the Lunara. Just so much damage output. Very good at burning down structures. And late game, her presence is huge.
No, it definitely is. And again, she provides a really good wave clear that we were talking about that they needed out of that pick. So Panda Global doing a really good job there. The ban phase now, though, is Tempo worried about a Sonya? Okay, so Lunara, one of the greatest trios in the game is going to be Tassadar, Sonya, and then Jaina. And they're just absurdly strong when they're influenced together. Tassadar making Sonya just really powerful. Jaina slowing everybody. Lunara kind of does the same thing.
That's
Not
true.
as well, but she kind of does.
Well, with Thornwood Vine, it's got a very similar impact.
It just spreads, you pop your W, and then everybody's slowed. So it's one of those things that if Tempo's really worried about them running kind of a melee, this might be a ban that they look to pull out. Again, they could pull away from it, but I definitely think that looking towards the Sonya is something that I would be fearful of if I am on the side of Tempo.
All right, well, Tempo Storm, they're debating that Sonya ban. They're debating, do they want to remove another support? Are they worried about Tassadar being paired with someone else? But no, it's ETC, the power of Maw and Mosh and Force Wall, just all that control. They don't want to fight that.
Yeah, they remove it, and it shows that they want Johanna, in my opinion. I guess they can look for the Muradin. Both of them are really, really strong tanks, but essentially Tempo has the next 2 picks, and they ban ETC when no tanks have been picked up, so they blatantly are saying that they have a tank they prefer, and I think it's going to be Johanna. It definitely could be Muradin, but I just feel like it would be better to do it the other way around and prioritize ETC because he's so strong, and then Morale is going to be banned out on Panda.
You know, just in general, I've always liked Johanna on this map, but paired with Thrall, you think about Sundering and then the Bless Shield follow-up and then Blizzard crashing down. It's just such a powerful powerful form of initiation. I mean, Sundering arguably the strongest initiation ability in the game. It's the biggest stun. In terms of hitbox, it's by far the biggest stun. And there she is.
Yeah, no, and they needed to pick it up here, otherwise Panda Global will. So there you go, them saying, we want a tank, and they lock it in. Murden being one of the only few really good solo tanks left here on the side of Panda Global. But what are they going to respond with? I wouldn't be surprised if it was a false dad lock-in right here.
Ooh, yeah.
I can also see them waiting that out and maybe trying to save it for the last pick, because Panda Global does have Lunara already, and then they already have Zagara. Maybe false dad doesn't necessarily complement their composition that well, but at the same time,
Wow.
okay, they go with the Malfurion.
Now,
really high prioritization there as a response to Lunara. What are we going to see a different build this game? Are we going to see a Loon still as an option for the wave clear? Are we going to see Rampant as an
Moonburn is
answer?
phenomenal for wave clear, so that's pretty much guaranteed. But in situations where you see Malf, it's never when you need cleanse, right? You almost never see a Malfurion grab cleanse just because of how impactful Rampant is. But I'm actually kind of surprised to see him over Uther. I mean, sure, the lane clear is phenomenal, but they've already got, fairly strong laning.
Yeah, so Toronto's going to be locked in here for Panda Global, which is almost 100% going to be a Murden. As the
Miranda.
Miranda's going to come in here, heavy influence there. The double pseudo healer is a really strong duo between those two.
It's a classic, really.
It is. It provides them a lot of early game kill potential. They have a decent amount of wave clear. They struggle a little bit, but not too much when it comes to the wave clear. And they have a great solo lane. So honestly, Panda Global's comp scales pretty well throughout the entire game here. And how well, honestly, I feel like it comes down to the Malfurion pick for where it was up.
So you're feeling that false head for the final pick still? You think that would be good? Because he's mobile.
I think it's not so much that he's great, it's just that I feel like rounding out their comp with some kind of sustain-oriented damage. I just feel like their opponents right now have very good sustain fighting, but they go with the Li Ming. All right, double mage. They're going to all in. It's just versus a double healer, you have Tassadar and you have Tyrande locking in a double burst style composition between Thrall, Jaina, and Li Ming. They have 0 sustained DPS, whereas Lunara, if she makes it to that late game spike on even footing with Zagara
and
the double
shield.
healer, it's one of those situations where it's like, if you don't kill anybody, how are you going to win a fight? And that makes me fearful for Temple. I don't think that they can't necessarily get away with it. It's just one of those things where I was talking game one, margin of error. It's so, you have to do everything very, very properly in order to walk away with a win with this style comp. But Li Ming, first time we're going to watch her come in and play here. Well, can we get the reset is the real question here.
Her debut on an official ESL Blizzard broadcast, my friend. That's it's going to be very exciting. Now, of course, we see very different styles out of her in different regions. Some players,
very diverse builds.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you see a full teleport build, which is about being a little bit in your face, going, kind of like almost Greymane-esque, right? Where you go in when that target's low, you blink onto them with teleport, and you do a ton of damage. But we also see magic missiles build. I think Cloud9, I've only exclusively seen them run the magic missile build. But for Tempo, I'm not too sure what to expect, honestly.
I think a lot of what the teams are going to be doing is it comes down to your team's composition and your opponents. I don't think it's very much like, well, we just like this playstyle. There might be a little bit of that, but a lot of it comes down to what do we need right now, right? And so, for instance, if you are against a very damage-oriented, you have no ability to survive, running that teleport build because they're going to dive you gives you not only the survivability, but very secure damage, whereas the the Q-oriented build is going to be a lot harder to lock that in because the missiles at a close range, it has a higher chance of missing versus at the longer one. So it's one of those situations where you definitely, your build is going to be very, very diverse here. I don't know what I expect to see in this type of situation exactly, but a lot of it's going to come down to, I think, how well the early first 5 seconds of the team fights is going to decide who walks away with a win in this game, Jake.
Well, B-Kid on his legendary Muradin, Salmon Tyrande, that pairing is so strong. We got Michael Udall playing Zagara, big impact on Lunara, and Akaface playing Tassadar.
And we are going to see Goku will be on the Thrall. Srey will be playing Johanna. Zix is going to be on that Malfurion. I'm really interested on his level 4. KO will be playing the Jaina. And Sowon Dira is going to be locking in that Li Ming.
I call them the mage babes. You put Johanna, or excuse me, Jaina and Li Ming together. Then you've got Johanna. Oh, what a trio.
I mean, that's...
The dream.
The dream right there. I mean, that pretty much is it. But it is going to be interesting. Like I said, the first 5 seconds, I think of every team fight, how well that Tassadar shields, how well the Tyrande gets a little bit of the healing here to try and deny those early kills. Because, again, if you let the reset go through here, it's going to be rough.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we are loading in onto game number 2 on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And Panda Global will be on the blue side, the left side of the map. They're wiggling around. They're getting their APM up in this game.
And right out the gates, we need to question who has a better level 1. With Miranda and a Tassadar, typically you're going to have the most dominant level 1. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to walk away with a kill, but you sure aren't going to lose the situation here. So how Tempo Storm reacts to this situation, they know that Zag's going to want to lay some creep on the bottom half of the map. It's really going to be interesting to see how they play it out. Again, Johanna's Iron Skin as well is going to be crucial to how well the wave clear pulls through. If she misuses it one time in this game, she might be one dead JoJo.
That is true. You got to be very careful. Save that trait until you absolutely need it. With so much lockdown on the opposing side, need to be wary. So we do see heavy presence in the mid. Zagara rotating up. The orb doing a lot of damage to BKid, but the shields to sustain from Tassadar. No one's going to go down, just a bit of trading of abilities here at the start. Looking at level 1, anything interesting to you, Dreadnought?
Power Hungry is going to be picked up by Soldier because they're running that 1-4, so a lot of globes are going to be picked up on the side of him, and it does give him that 20-second spike advantage where his ability power will be stronger and sure kills. There you go, see a little bit of free harass there. Other than that, everything, Jaina's going to lock in actually a Conjurers, again, to try and complement that globe-oriented play. I don't know if I totally agree with that one. I don't think it's bad, but I definitely don't know if I think it's fully min-maxing the situation as best they possibly could. But again, like I was talking about, that 1-4, Soldier actually getting harassed on the turrets here. I absolutely love this play here. Not fully committing to the 4-man, just using him to take out free front walls. That range is
Look at the damage done to the towers already. It's actually just critical. All right, well, a nice bit poke there, but Sray taking a lot of damage. Hunter's Mark was cast, but the response is there. Soldier with a perfectly placed Blizzard, really forcing back Panda Global.
Yeah, and you see in the mid lane, they're just still skirmishing everywhere, but Psalm. Soldier hitting all 3 of his Qs there, getting a lot of damage. The stun coming out in Sray, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Keep in mind, if Psalm overextends a little bit, all it's going to take is 1 orb from Soldier, and they're going to be getting the reset as quick as they can there, and bam, going back to the 4-man rotation as best they can. Soldier staying on mid and looking to get that harass.
So stylistically, Panda Global has far more vision. You think of Oracle, Creep Spread, and then Sentinel with a full-on Pierce and Power build is going to give them a ton of vision and ability to interrupt the turn-ins if they're in those situations. But Tempo Storm, they've got a very powerful initiation as well, and even if we do have full vision, Sundering can just disrupt all of your plans. The root's not quite connecting on Psalm, so he's going to be A-okay.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where that is the case where they're going to be able to get these 4-mans as best as they possibly can, and the site prevention for the turn-ins is absolutely crucial, like you were talking about. But a lot of it, by the way, they also have Tyrande, who most likely is going to get Pierce to interrupt that as well. So they do have a lot of delay, like you were talking about. But if you're so far behind that you can't even take a team fight, there's the Pierce we were talking about. It essentially doesn't leave you. It leaves you in a situation where it doesn't matter how much you know your opponent's turning in. If you can't stop them, who cares, right? So that is very crucial if they're on even footing. But keep in mind, if they fall too far behind, it's not going to be as easy here. And so you do see an orb going to be picked up here. Orb talent at level 4 there.
Triumvirate.
Yeah.
That's a cooldown reduction. I mean, as long as the orb travels 65% of its maximum range, it will reset the cooldown by less than half. Oh my goodness, you see the damage from the orb there. Soldier can't quite get the next cast out due to that Stormbolt of BKid. A nice sustain there, knowing the threat the orb presents.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to keep in mind is a lot of Soldier's positioning is going to be crucial here. Because of the orb damage and also the reset situation, they need to make sure that he kind of not necessarily directly flanks. Meanwhile, Goku in the bottom lane, that's Miranda getting the flank. The dog saving him, dodging the stun here. Is it going to be enough? No. He will barely go down there. The gems will not be lost there, though. KO will back out and look to pick those up.
I learned something new today. I learned that Doomhammer is actually very bouncy when you get exploded as Thrall. So that is some great knowledge to have here. Blizzard with Snowstorm will clean up that lane very effectively. Sray just trying to keep mid pushed out. Michael Udall without level 7 doesn't necessarily have the most powerful lane clear, but level 7 is not far away.
And we did see that Rampant Growth was not picked up. Elun's Grace instead is going to be picked up by the Malfurion here. So same situation as the last game there, where the Q outside of the Tranquility not going to be as effective. Keep in mind, though.
Oh no, KO getting picked way off. 15 gems on the ground, but Goku able to trade it. This beautiful collapse from Panda Global not paying off as Tempo has a quick rotation. Saray taking a bit of damage in the back, but BKid, his life is forfeit.
The problem is the Tempo's losing a lot of XP, and not only that, a little bit of the turn-in there on the upper half of the map.
Man.
They do go 1 for 1, but they lose the turn-in for that sake, and a little bit of XP. Not the end of the world when it comes to either team. They made a little bit of an aggressive rotation. Didn't get too big of an advantage, but both teams are going to be kind of sitting exactly where they were, minus not getting the turn-in on the side of Tempo. But Ken, Soldier, you see him getting that harass everywhere that he possibly can.
Yeah, so Seeker has been picked up here on Li Ming. That's going to give a lot of additional burst for that hero. So obviously just watch out for that. If all 3 magic missiles hit, you basically get another missile worth of damage.
Yeah, and again, like I was talking about, his positioning being at that kind of like 45-degree or 90-degree angle on the team fight, not being straightforward so his W doesn't hit tanks is going to be crucial to the success of getting the team fight for him. But Sray getting caught out a little bit there without his passive there.
Hunter's Mark is just so powerful. I mean, Johanna, we talk about how tanky she is, but the moment you throw that 25% damage amplification on that target, it doesn't matter if you're a tank or an assassin.
Yeah, no, they all just kind of seem to, their health bars just drop instantly here, but you do see the rotation. Going to be the upper half. That's going to be a front wall during the first turn in here on the side of Panda Global, but realistically, they because of those harass coming out from Soldier, they don't walk away with a very big XP lead at any front here.
No.
They're almost dead even here, and that was a large amount of gems going to be turned in there, so no advantage going to be picked up on the side of Panda Global, even though they did burn their 50 gems.
Generally speaking, when you turn in your gems, you're trying to get the advantage for level 10. And if Tempo Storm manages to turn in, they're pretty much guaranteed that advantage. So right now, we do see just great posturing, great presence, controlling the turn-ins on the side of Panda Global. The creep spread is here in the bottom. We've actually got Salmon B-Kid just lurking and waiting for someone to poke their head out. And we do see the rest of the team is making sure they have eyes on the top portion. But Sray pops that Iron Skin a little bit far forward. Yeah, he is getting body blocked by B-Kid, but no, with the team of Tempo rotating up, the Wolf goes out, actually does connect on Michael Udall, and Psalm is getting very low. Sray, can he connect, get the kill? No, Blizzard not enough. The roots placed beautifully, but it is a full disengage from Panda Global, and Goku will get the turn-in.
Yeah, that's really good on their half, honestly. That's exactly what they need with Tempo. They are going to maybe possibly re-engage here. It will be a 5 versus 5 at this type of situation. Again, all the W's coming out from Soldier. Notice how he sits not directly in the team fight, but kind of flanking. Whether or not he gets caught out with the Tacidar's Oracle there later half of the game is going to be crucial. But now, honestly, pretty much dead even footing from both of these teams.
Okay, well, we saw Li Ming poke that one tower on top, but he's in a bit of a spot where he needs to be careful. If he gets collapsed on, it could be very dangerous, but Ziggs is here for the support, and actually Tempo now rotating up with KO as well. They want to burn through these towers quickly and then get the rotation, but their mid-way Web Weaver is just mincemeat, getting burned down by Panda Global.
Yeah, and the race of 10 is going to be barely won here by Tempo Storm. They're going to rotate to the upper half of the map, and we'll have 10 advantage for only a couple of seconds. Whether or not they're able to capitalize on this, you do see Sray getting aggressive, but Tacidar's a very hard target to get a kill. And they're going to use this to try and ensure the fact that they get a fort. Goku on the bottom half of the map still dealing that 1v1. So they are going to lock in one fort advantage here. But again, both of these teams, it's not like anybody's walking away with the game quite yet here. Goku's going to be a little bit risky here. Miranda rotating down, smelling it out, whether they're going to be able to take out the War Chief.
All right, the standard heroics have been picked up. The rotation down to mid. Just Li Ming staying in top with the Web Weaver before it does end up falling. Not quite going to get the fort at this rate. Actually, no, it might have actually taken it out.
Yeah, and they're in a situation, they walk away with a win there. And now they, you see Tempo Storm instantly rotating to make sure that they get the Knights over their opponents, get a little bit pressure out. Keep in mind, Tempo Storm also, because they haven't lost very many lives here in this game and managed to not give up any of the gems, they actually do have a turn-in over their opponents, even though both teams have turned in one time here. So really crucial on how this works out.
62 to 45 in terms of the gems in the pockets of each team in favor of Tempo Storm. And Goku just kind of showing his face to big impact. Now that's just going to force a potential response into that bottom lane, and that's actually giving Tempo Storm a little bit of space here on top, but the Sentinel and the Stormbolt will be successful interrupting.
And that's that delay in sight that we were talking about there in the early half of the game. It's coming into play directly right now, but again, whether or not their opponents can actually take the team fight is a different story. Huge poke coming out there on the side of Tempo. Soldier just throwing out skill shots, man.
The Blizzard crashing down, doing a good bit of damage, and actually the Bless Shield used very early here from Sray. No follow-up from Tempo. The Force Wall, though, is locking B-Kid back. We see the Shadow Stalk trying to keep them up. Stormbolt and the Lunar Flare, so Thrall goes down early. No Sundering. Oh, Sundering was cast in this fight, and we do see a 3-man Maw. Absolutely huge. The follow-up, we see the Force Wall has been cast, trying to get them locked in. KO's going to end up falling here. Ziggs is very low in the top. The Dwarf Toss and the Stormbolt do connect, and that is a 3-for-0 for Panda Global.
That was absolutely crucial. That was a really good pick on the lower half of the map. Big impact influencing. He essentially, Goku got caught out a little bit too far, and then was able to ensure the fact that he was going to go down there, and then a huge maw on him. Big playmaker like I was talking about early on. Big impact coming in here and just really influencing that team fight for his team. Now they do have a turn-in. Tempo Storm does as well, but they aren't going to be able to get it, and how well they snowball this part of the map is going to be crucial. Again, Lunara hasn't quite hit her spike in power quite yet, but the Miranda being able to make sure that her early game wasn't so weak there in their type of composition. And like I said, a lot of it, when they do get this turn-in, if they start a team fight, the first 5 seconds I think are going to be absolutely crucial to the success of it. Just largely because Tempo Storm has such a burst-oriented composition.
Yeah, but props to Tempo for retaining most of their gems. You see Sray sitting on 54. His life is worth a lot more than just falling, right? He needs to make sure that he doesn't drop those gems for the team, because that is their life savings. Disintegrate, only a 20-second cooldown being used there with Night takes Panda to try to focus down a single one of the Web Weavers, but level 13 is imminent right now for Panda Global, and they will have a small advantage with that.
Yeah, and they rotate to the upper half, 5-man committing to make sure they get a 4. It will get them 13, but Goku is on the bottom half of the map soaking. They're just waiting Tempo to get 13. They aren't going to take any risks that they don't have to. Make sure they're on an even footing with their opponents. What is going to be absolutely crucial when it comes to these team fights too, one thing that I want to look out for is how well Goku's Sunder pairs with kind of the burst coming out from Li Ming. I really do fear, just again, with that double healer into a burst style composition, I'm just really fearful for how the team fights are going to start. But Sray in the mid lane.
Beautiful force wall with the Hunter's Mark being used. There's 3 throws at the Blessed Shield, so Heroic spent for a very short cooldown. Heroic, that force wall. Goku is spotted by the Wisp, immediately has to back away, and all this vision from the Creep and the Wisp is being so impactful in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so hard for Tempo Storm to find a reaction. Again, you see the 3-man rotation in the bottom half. They're trying to cap on top, but Sray has all the coins. You were talking about their life savings being on Sray. That's totally fine, except who's your best zoning tool? Sray. And again, he's caught out now. Iron Skin coming out very early. Tempo has to take this fight.
A beautiful forest wall. They're forcing Sray back. He's trying to juke that force. We do see them all just onto Jaina. Not really going to get big value, and they're turning this around. Tempo Storm looking to make something happen right now. They're moving on forward, but Sray, Thrall goes down very early in this battle. Sray not able to peel him back, and the Dwarf Toss in from Beacon. He's known for his Muradin. Can he get the lockdown? But the Iron Skin is used at the perfect moment.
Yeah, and Li Ming ended up getting a little bit of poke from the side there, getting their health bars low. But again, the Sunder being used at the same time as Ma, so his team isn't able to follow up when they have that much burst and that little sustain. If they aren't all on the exact same page and able to execute flawlessly, they're not going to be able to get a kill here, which is really what their composition's built to do. Tempo got 76 coins, but again, Sray's their best zoning tool, so having him turn in, they don't have the ability to kind of zone off of him, and that's where most of these picks have come through, Jake. A lot of it here, but B-Kid's going to be very, very aggressive.
All right, well, Panda Global looking phenomenal so far in this game. A full level lead, and they are looking to collect enough gems for the next turn-in of the Web Weavers. We know Sray still holding on to that big life savings, but can they turn it in with all this map control? They have really been struggling in the mid to late game.
Absolutely, and again, their composition kind of just struggles in, like, overall. It's just their early game is decent, but then the Mirana going to be picked up by their opponents. This is going to be really rough here. The turn-in's going to be won by Global, at least for now. They do have a couple more that they need to obtain in Tempo because they're all sitting on Sray. They can't zone off of him. The fight before 16 is crucial, but Goku's going to be caught out here. The stun going to be juked, and Sray's looking to force. Welly coming out.
All right, the force wall used to try to disengage, but a big condemn pulling them in. The Wolf there, they've locked down Beacon. They're doing a lot of damage, but Sray needs to back on out himself. The heals from Ziggs aren't necessarily at full power yet with no level 16 here, but he still has Tranquility in his pocket, holding onto it as long as he can. Lunar Flare whiffing entirely. We see the Roots not really doing much as well, but we do have Sundering available, so if Goku finds that moment, he will initiate hard with it. Ice Block popped very early, and Ma has been cast.
Yeah, that was a really big deal that Ma ended up missing there, but Tempo Storm hasn't looked to force this fight. There they go. They get the catch there. Keep in mind, when the Sunder comes out, Sunder and Trank at the same time, if they force this fight all at once, they might stand a chance, but 16's almost reached.
Goku caught out of position. Lunar Flare connect Tranquility way too late, and no Sundering cast. The Roots will do absolutely nothing, and Tempo Storm is in a terrible position. The Ice Block is keeping Ziggs up for a moment, but it's just a temporary sustain as he will get blown up very quickly here. Trying to slip on into the shadows, but the Stormbolt and Psystorm are just too much, and KO will fall as well. Panda Global, with the patience, takes a huge fight, dropping a lot of gems off Tempo.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they decide to try a boss at this type of situation. They don't have enough coins quite yet. Okay, they are going to wait it out here. They aren't going to be able to boss and turn in at the exact same time. But again, a lot of that came down to just Tempo Storm with that sustained DPS that they lack. And they aren't getting the poke exactly that they need. Getting caught out a little bit, and then all it takes is that, and they aren't turning and forcing the fight together. I really would like to see on their half to try and make a comeback in this game. They need to be using Sunder and Trank kind of moving in all at the same time, but they keep staggering kind of their ultimates, and without that sustained DPS that you see coming from that Lunara kind of late game and the Zagara, they just have no chance unless they all move in together.
Yeah, now we're talking 16, just about 17 to level 15 of Tempo Storm. Panda Global looking to bring us to a game 3. That Ranger being picked up on Sentinel hits so much harder. If that Owl travels a long distance, it can chunk through your health bar. You wouldn't expect a support to hit that hard.
Definitely would not, but here the Web Weavers are going to be turning in. Keep in mind, Tempo's still not 16. They're going to do everything they can to not lose a keep here, but without the 16, if they force a fight on their opponents, they're going to have a bad time. Trank's still 10 seconds before it's going to be up here. The front wall is inevitably going to go down. Bottom four is going to be going down as well. And this is going to be what looks like a 2-level lead right now. Might be shifting to a 3 if they manage to force a fight on Tempo.
All right, well, this is a dire situation without level 16. They're just trying to burn through the Web Weaver as safely as possible without actually committing to a fight. As you mentioned, that fort is going down. Top Web Weaver really pressuring the top wall on top of it. So this is not really ideal, but Panda Global taking it very safely. I have to commend them for not overcommitting to this.
Yeah, no, they're playing it really smart because Tempo doesn't really have the engage that they necessarily need. And KO rotating to the upper half of the map, making sure that it gets that clear out, and the bottom are going to be pushing. I wouldn't be surprised if KO actually looked to get a flank at some point up here or force this fight. I don't think they're going to give up this keep. The minute that they hit 16, I think they're going to look to force.
I'm surprised we don't see the Wisp actually covering that flank that you mentioned as a possibility, but they do have eyes on KO at the moment, so it's not at all critical. And he's looking to go up through that gate. No, opts to back on away. Tempo Storm manages to keep all of their keeps alive, and level 16 is almost here, but the final Web Weaver will now be cleaned up.
And just how this game has gone, we've seen kind of that dance around the turn-ins happen about 3 different times, and Tempo each time has managed to get pick and not force the fight that they necessarily want. Oh, but the boss call is going to be coming out here on the side of Panda Global. They have Toronto. This is going to be burnt before Tempo can even recognize it. They aren't going to get a turn in either. The Wisp spotting them halfway through. They know the Owl dismount. 3, 4, 5 man dismount. Perfect on his half. That's going to be a free boss on their half. Tempo is not going to be able to deal with this, but they also didn't get a turn in. They lost on all fronts here, and now they're losing a 2-level lead. This boss is not like it's going to end the game by any means, but whether if they get these picks, it will.
Osray has 70 of the 98 gems of Tempo Storm. Iron Skin has been used. They need to get him out. That is their lifeline. A combo going in with the Hunter's Mark. A huge sundering, separating the team, and that is a big pickup for Tempo Storm. The Maw just on the one hero, gonna buy them some space, and they're trying to set it up. Zix is gonna keep them alive. Right now, B-Kid able to back on away, and it looks like it's just the one pickup, but this boss has made it to the keep.
Absolutely, and that was a really good job. For the first time we saw Tempo sunder and actually initiate as a team there. Maybe a little bit of misplay trying to get onto Stray there and not confirming the kills. They do walk away by getting a night camp and losing one person. Not the end of the world, but if Tempo... Okay, so we were talking about kind of that delay in that site that we see on the side of Panda Global, right? That's going to come into a crucial point right now. Tempo needs to turn in while they have a man advantage. They have over 100 gems on their team right now. If they are not able to get that with the delay that you see from the Zagara site, look at Stray trying to turn in, the Owl coming into play. They have so much delay. They have to force this fight right now, or they're never going to get a turn in. This is the turning point moment for Tempo. Are they going to capitalize?
Oh no, this is such a tight situation for them. 19 to 17. Sure, they have their 16 talents, which is good, but Panda Global getting another 38 in, just about 31 turned in so far, 7 more in their pocket. Sray's gonna poke his head in here, try to turn in, but B-Kid is just waiting. Stormbolt in, the focus going down onto Lunara, but we do see that spell block really paying off, sustained through the damage, and Sray drops all of the gems. This is just chaotic. Panda Global initiating hard onto Zix. The Stormbolt there, they're flanking Goku in the backline, but he's way out of position. The Shadowstalk is keeping them up. The 61 gems, sure they were picked up, but now they're gonna fall to the poison of Lunara, and she's gonna burn him down, and Panda Global in a position to end the game.
Yeah, there's gonna be a situation where they're gonna decide to either move through the upper half of the map and try and rush the core. They're gonna go through the upper half there. Keep in mind, Nature's Calling is gonna be huge here. We have 35 seconds, 20 seconds before Johanna is gonna spawn. She only has a little bit of tools to actually stop this here. I don't know if Tempo Storm's gonna be able to deal with this type of situation. Honestly, Murden's gonna be taking up. Soldier has to get a huge poke, but keep in mind, he really doesn't have anywhere to get a flank on his opponents here. The core Jake now going down. We see the Nature Calling damage, 90% here, moving on to 80.
Yeah, there is no stopping this Dreadnought, 70% left. Panda Global will be taking us to a game number 3, taking out Tempo Storm in game 2 here on Tomb of the Spider Queen. GG.
I mean, phenomenal play coming out from Panda Global. Honestly, they did a lot of things really, really right there when it came to that game. And Tempo Storm, and at that very end, not trying to capitalize on a situation where they absolutely needed to try and make a comeback in that game. That was very much the fact that their composition, they decided to try and get that turn in while everybody was alive, right? They didn't force it while the Tassadar was dead. At any point, they didn't try to manipulate manipulate the map, try to force a 4 vs 5. Everybody spawned, but then guess what? Because their comp is very burst mage oriented, they didn't have any major cooldowns up. Tranquility wasn't up at that time. Sunder, I believe, was still slightly off of the cooldown. They didn't have what they needed to stand a chance in those team fights because they had no direct sustained damage dealer that doesn't need a heroic to be really heavily influential. They just don't have the ability to take that fight. So they take the worst case fight and it loses them the game.
And you saw how, like, it was all about getting the big sundering, right? Sundering was, every time they won a fight, the sundering was a big reason for that. And every time Thrall went for those big flanks, there was a Wisp or an Owl or Creep Spread just waiting to reveal his position. Panda Global was always very conscious about that. You can see here in the game, that
Huge
big maw, like this really secured them their advantage. The Force Wall follow-up. From here, the game was very even, but Panda Global secured themselves a lead in this game for the first time, taking a 3-0. Moving on in, we can see that stun onto Thrall, bursting him at the start of the fight, and from there, they managed to continue to advance their lead, securing level 16 for Panda Global.
Absolutely, and it's just a situation where they just are dancing around over and over again, using that delay, using that sight. Huge Lunar Flare there from Psalm to lock raw stun there to lock in that kill there, and then there we go. That is the 70 gem Ray. Trying to make something happen there, and then the bank. And all the gems going all over the place there. And
look at Goku. He's picking them up.
He's trying.
He knows how desperate those are. He throws out the Sundering in desperation to try to get out of this, but it's not enough, and that's pretty much what ended the game. If he backed away safely, do you think they could have defended?
They could have. It doesn't. They could have defended because the turn-in wasn't available. This game only has a few points of actually being able to end the game on that map, right? And so realistically, their opponents, Panda Global, had no opportunity to actually get a turn-in for a large amount of time, and it would have been long enough for Saray to spawn and something to happen. He didn't need to risk those coins, but it did mean he was essentially trying to say that if they somehow did manage to get that moment to actually turn in, they wouldn't have a second one. They would have like a minor tempo swing, but if they didn't have like force a fight, they weren't getting anything major. That turn-in would have gotten a fort. Congratulations. Like way later in the game, we're at what, 18 minutes of when that fight happened, and it's like, you got a fort. Oh, well, okay. Well,
so a little bit of an unnecessary risk going in to collect the family fortune.
It was, it definitely what secured the loss, but at the same time, it was like such a huge uphill battle. I understand why he made the play.
All right, well, we will be going to Battlefield of Eternity as the third and final map here in round 1 of the group stage. Now, this is, of course, Group A. There's 2 groups today. We've got tons of action throughout the day. But man, we're starting off with such a close and epic match.
Absolutely, it's phenomenal play from both these teams. And if we didn't think that Lunar was like an influential moment when it came to those first 2 drafts, this is the map that kind of brought her to the light, if you will, of the meta. It's going to be Battlefield of Eternity, where they're going to use that Nature's Coin to have heavy influence on getting a large amount of DPS there onto the Immortals. And so how they're going to play it out between these 2 teams, I think the draft, that ban on Zeratul, a lot of the manipulation, both these teams very calculated on what they want to do when facing each other here. And game 3, it's not only going to be epic, it's going to determine a lot for both these teams in the rest of the tournament.
So last night, you and I went out for dinner with Dunk Train in Sea of Steve. And we had a bit of a very fun conversation talking about responding to heroes like Lunara, who have this very powerful late game. In Malfurion, we saw as the response there, and it might sound crazy to some of the viewers, but you guys were talking about the power of Lili.
Yes.
Would that have made a big difference in that game?
In that game specifically, a little bit. I don't know if I would have said I would have to go reworking the draft and everything. I do think that she might be a soft response to that type of play. I think it is very compositional dependent. I do think the mouth picks have been direct responses to that, but not speccing into Rampant at 4 I think is absolutely crucial when playing that style of play. But yeah, no, Lili, no matter how much I might hate to admit it, she might be kind of a response because she spikes to that later game style play. And when it is on big maps where you make it to the late game, she's one of the few that can deal with just raw damage output. As long as nobody's like heavily sieged, she can actually do it. So I'm sorry, I've just tilted like even admitting this. Like
somewhere Caleris is just smiling because I know Caleris is the biggest Lili fanboy.
Oh man, I mean, I'm ready for adventure, I guess.
Me too. Panda Global. Will they play the Panda?
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know either, but it's going to be interesting how they round this out into game number 3 here. I think Lunara, Zeratul again, Stitch is going to be a huge talking point. I don't think Lili, sadly, will be a talking point when it comes to this draft.
Crushing dreams, Dreadnought. It's just, that's what he was born to do. Crush little panda dreams.
Absolutely. Do I think any variations of other heroes that I think are going to come into play? Personally, I think I'd like to see a Sonya come into play in this game. I want to avoid Thrall. I think that would be really important to see out of these two teams. I would like to see Sonya more than Thrall, largely because when it comes to the Immortals, she's very, very, very good at locking it down. Zagara is going to be a huge point in this game on this map because of how well she does with it. And I know it might be a little bold to say, but she definitely has a spot, if anywhere on this map. It's going to be Sergeant Hammer.
Yeah, we've actually seen that in the past out of Niventic. They've definitely run Sergeant Hammer. We've seen Zuna playing Hammer. I mean, just the siege potential, the amount of control you get, but of course, Jaina, Frostbolt build, rising in power, a little bit better for single target damage. Yeah,
especially with lingering to get a proc constantly on your Q on the map objective.
So we could see that. We could see a change up in style of Jaina and Li Ming. We've seen her burst, but Lunara probably going to get banned. Like, you think so?
I think Lunara, Zeratul are so high. I don't know. There's a couple of heroes for both of these teams specifically, not necessarily universally for this tournament, but with this map and how these two teams play, the draft I think is going to break right now. So that Falstad is huge. So what this is doing on Tempo Storm's part, if they, so now they're going to say, okay, well, you have to pick Zagara now. There's a sustained DPS in this situation, right? You need to lock in and we're going to take it. But now they're saying, if you take that, guess what? We've got a Zeratul. And that's been a huge talking point when it comes to these games. Zeratul's been such a chokehold point when it comes to these games. It's absolutely phenomenal. So like that ban, this is already start of a great draft when it comes to these two teams. They are like, do you want the Zeratul? Do you want the Zagara? It doesn't matter.
Want the Li Ming?
Whatever you don't want, we're going to take, and we're going to straight top deck and wreck with it.
All right, Panda Global. Will it be the Zagara once again? It's been very prominent. You think about the safe poke with the Roaches and the Hydras to just throw on your opponent's Immortal in these kind of situations. It's very valuable. And then just the creep threat in general, the laning presence capability. Oh,
called it. I love it. Now, there's going to be a Zagara response to this, absolutely, 100%, which is very good for the map objective. Like, it's just going to be a really heavy influential pick when it comes to the Falstad man out there. I really like this on the side of Tempo. Kind of a call out when it comes to this draft, but now how well they're going to be able to deal with the Zeratul is a different story. It's been a talking point for all three of the drafts here. We've seen Goku lay it down here. We're now going to see most likely what's going to be Maiku Doll on that type of situation. But past this, what is Tempo Storm looking for when it comes to the map objective? I personally definitely would like to see them moving towards an influential melee. They have the good solo laner. I think a Denial. Well, now with Zeratul too, is Panda Global going to be worried about a Thrall as a solo lane response? There's a lot of different weird situations when it comes to this draft, Jake.
Yeah, but I don't know if we'll see Tempo run Thrall again. I think the Sonya might make more sense. I mean, as much as the Sunderings are a huge threat, they handled Goku so well in that last game. But Zagara Li Ming, safe poke, great presence versus the objective in general.
Absolutely.
I love it.
No, I think Tempo has started off this draft with really great play so far. I do feel like the ban coming out from Panda Global onto the Regar has kind of hurt them a little bit too much, but Tacit are going to be locked in here as a kind of a little bit of a deny, a little bit of a synergy here. It's going to deny the Sight Oracle to remove the Zeratul, which is going to be really influential. What are they going to round this out? Oh my goodness. They're going to move on a Morales here.
Morales, very early. Is this a setup for Cho'Gall?
Yeah. It is. I think it's going to be a Cho'Gall.
So now Panda Global has to ban Cho'Gall.
I think it's a Cho'Gall ban.
There's too much safe poke.
It's scary.
It's too much.
The only reason I don't like Cho'Gall is because Tempo is only going to have Cho'Gall with Cho being the only threat. Typically, having Cho'Gall with somebody, it's kind of like Illidan, right? When you pick Cho'Gall, you don't want Illidan you don't want him to be the only guy who's doing things that is scary. Because if you all in Illidan, he's just dead. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, now imagine that being two Illidans just dead at one time, right? Like literally,
feels bad, man.
two-fifths of your team is going to end up dying in that type of situation. So Tempo, without that lack of like a really kind of a hero that's going to be really out there with him in your face, I think Cho'Gall might be a little bit of a risk, but on this map with that free poke, the sustain, the Morales healing overall long term, I really like the pick up from Tempo.
They're not worried. They go for the ETC
What if they wanted
ban?
themselves? I mean, they can honestly just say, you know what? Hey, you want it, we're going to take it. This is a
mind games.
I mean, this draft, man. We were talking about it before, and it touched up on it a little bit, how it's going to be the mind games of the draft, and it's definitely coming into play here.
Okay, the final band of this draft, Tempostorm considering their options. Now, the Protoss Brethren probably won't be employing their friend Artanis in this matchup. That's pretty unlikely. But Tyrande, they saw the power of that hero, the power of that Hunter's Mark that could be saying Cho'Gall even more.
Lunara or Cho'Gall is going to be interesting here. That is kind of the plight of Cho'Gall, where he's forced to pick something, forced to be picked in an entire rotation if you do lock him in, getting the Cho and the Gall there. Murden's going to be locked in for a good tank with the ETC band that's going to be smart on their half there. So are they going to be looking for a Lunara in this type of situation? I feel like it's inevitable.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm actually surprised she made it this long in the draft because of the power of Nature's Culling in general.
I think it makes sense for tempo, and I kind of see where Panda's coming from. I think this is the point where if she made it through, I would just be like, they have something that I don't expect. Really, when it comes to their draft. As for tempo, if they don't lock in, they go with the Thrall. They're going to let it go through, saying that if you take in Lunara right now, you're going to be in a bad spot. Essentially, that's kind of a bait for the Zeratul there. Saying that if you lock in the Lunara, we're just going to have Zeratul, Murd, and Thrall all over you, and you're going to have a really hard time. They're forcing that. So I like that pick move. Again, a really aggressive call out, kind of out when it comes in the draft, and Panda Global risking it all here in game number 3. I love it. It's what you need to do to walk away with big wins here at this tournament.
Okay, well, a heavy initiation on their side. Double melee, not super common, but it does happen here and there. Will Cho'Gall be that pick for Tempostorm? No.
Nope.
They're going for Johanna, and then they might go for melee. Sonya could work here versus this comp. She definitely is a presence.
I think Sonya does okay. It's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be really interesting. I don't want to see Lunara. I'm afraid we're gonna. I don't want to see that from Tempo. If they do lock in Lunara, I feel like their comp is very susceptible to the hard engaged Zeratul style composition when it comes from Panda Global. It's really fearful of that, and I do think they're going to lock it in no matter what here. So past this, what do we think Tempostorm can lock in? They have a couple of options. Raynor, okay. They're going to lock in the Raynor.
Triple ranged.
Yeah, they're going to go triple ranged into a Zeratul here.
Well, think about Stim Drone, and think about the power of Stim Drone on both Zagara and Raynor, right? That gives them a lot of presence, and we have seen Dropship, the Medivac, be very powerful on this map as well. So 2 big options there for Zix on the Medic, but great triple melee in theory.
Greymane, no
Lunara. With a lone support Tassadar.
They just, I 100% expected Lunara
coming in.
Yeah, so that's the European/Korean meta that I was kind of talking about a little bit coming into play. So Greymane, you lock in the Tassadar, and so the double sustain kind of against the poke and everything else, but then you end up taking a large amount of poke. I do think, I feel like Morales isn't the worst. She does have great healing, obviously, but Greymane's got that later game spiking, and Morales is going to be able to most likely be able to deal with a little bit of the healing, but she's susceptible to the poke herself.
She's susceptible to flanks. If a big Sunray comes through and Greymane dives in the Worgen form with go for the throw, it's going to be so hard for Zix to stay alive.
Yeah.
So they've got to keep their eyes on those flanks, and of course Tassadar can find the openings with Oracle. I'm loving the drafts from both teams, but this is definitely a very interesting style, especially for the North American meta.
Absolutely.
To see Zeratul, Greymane, and Thrall.
I told you, I feel like it's going to be an entirely new meta here for the most part. A lot of it, and the new things are going to develop into the middle of this tournament. Here we are in the first set. Things are getting real weird. So what I want to talk about, though, a lot is when it comes down to the map and these types of compositions, right? Lunara wasn't touched up on it at all, but Zag is going to be great on the map objective. Morales is extremely good at those extended fights. Li Ming's going to have good poke, and Raynor, they can kind of pretty much eat Immortals alive when it goes on the side of Tempostorm. But Panda Global, what do they have? They do have Greymane. He is going to be pretty decent there. Zeratul and Thrall not going to do too much, but here we go. We are going to be moving into this match here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have B-Kid is going to be playing Murden. Solom is going to be on the Zeratul. Mike Udall will be on the Thrall. Big Impact's going to be playing Greymane, and Akaface will be on that solo support task.
The triple range, or the triple melee versus the triple range with Goku on Raynor, Srey and Johanna, Zix playing Medic. We have Zagara played by KO, and So One Deer. Soldier is going to be on Li Ming once again. We saw his scary, scary presence in the early game when he was poking safely, but it really felt to fall off towards the late game once the pressure was a little bit more prominent on the side of Panda Global.
I don't know if that was a play thing rather than just a composition type situation, and I do think this will be a game where it'll be a little bit different. The manipulation of it will be done a little bit different from the last game, but he played, honestly, really well. His approach to the team fights from the angle was really well done, and for the most part, I do think he will have a pretty heavy impact here on this game.
All right, guys, well, we're loading into game number 3 on Battlefield of Eternity. This is it. One team will move into the upper finals, and the other team will fall into an elimination match in the lower bracket with Panda Global here on the blue side.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the first game of the, or set of the day, but it's going to set where the teams go. If their back's going to be against the wall, if they have to pull out those pocket strats here. But again, this is going to be a huge game here. A lot of it's going to come down to the Immortals, who makes the early rotations, and I think the Zeratul play is going to be crucial because, again, that triple range is very, very susceptible to his style of play. You see Zag getting that solo creep on the bottom half, actually not getting spotted there. KO being a sneaky snake.
Sneaky snake. The Oracle did not find it today. All right, well, in terms of talents, we actually have perfect aim picked up once again for Greymane. So, you know, sticking to that over Wolfheart, both of these games in which he has been played. Reverberation there for Muradin, going to try to deal with some of that auto attack presence, especially in the event that Stim Drone is picked up as an option, because man, is Raynor scary if he goes for that full style. But he did go for Give Me More at level 1 instead of Giant Killer. Or Season Marksman, excuse me.
It's a really good situation here, and Li Ming getting a heavy amount of poke there already right out the gate, so that's really impressive from them. I don't know how well this bottom lane is going to go on the side of Greymane. I do think he struggles a little bit in the 1v1. He's not bad by any means, but he doesn't necessarily excel against Zagara. I mean, though, let's be honest, who does?
Thrall, and Thrall is rotated down.
Yeah.
So there's a response. Michael Udall is going to be there. He's going to poke safely with Chain Lightning. First 2 talents are always picked up for this style of play, and you just wait for the moment. If Zagara oversteps her bounds, you'll see that Wind Fury popped in, and the 3 hits just chunking through her health pool.
Yeah, and the 4-1 is a really common strategy here. We do see, like you said, Zag just kind of doing her thing in the bottom half. And honestly, no team's really going to do anything major, I don't think, in this early half, unless you get a big flank here, which you do see posturing up from Panda Global, Psalm, and big impact. But no, see, the early rotation from Tempo, I think this is crucial to the success of both of these teams here. Whoever makes them better rotations here, because again, Tempo Storm's comp can kind of eat these Immortals alive here, and it does spawn in the bottom half of the map, positional advantage, and Zag's creep is going to be really big for them.
All right, well, we see Tempo taking an aggressive posture on this Immortal, but the same response here for Panda Global. You think about Thrall's power just alone, and they're able to keep on up, actually, just slightly ahead.
Yeah, no, they're in a situation where the early game for Zag and Raynor is not going to be able to do that much. Whether or not in the later game that's the same case, I do think actually Tempo will walk away with a loss here. Stray is blinding, actually, to make sure that that doesn't happen. Getting the pull really well done in his part. Whether or not Tempo's going to be able to make it happen, though, I don't think that's going to be the case here, Jake. I think,
oh my goodness, they actually managed to barely clutch it out on the side of Panda Global. A very close victory. The blind of Johanna, nearly enough to stall out that damage.
And I think a lot of that comes to just the late game scaling that comes out from Tempo's comp. Their auto attack centric composition really doesn't do that much. Like, they're level 3, right? Like, how much does Zag really do on her own? But that will change a little bit when it comes to the future there. I do like the fact that both teams decided to be offensive, making this Immortal essentially not very useful, because both their comps kind of struggle when it comes to that early game oriented style play, especially in my opinion when it comes to tempos, and then the Greymane scaling that happens at that spike at 16.
Wow, okay, so great defense. Only 1 tower was lost. We see Kay was able to fend off both Zeratul and Thrall on his own. The power of just Zagara early game in the laning phase. And taking a look at these talents, anything that stands out in Venom, not a common option.
It's definitely not necessarily what you consider standard. Really aggressive rotation here, though. Soldier instantly blinking out.
Nice.
And they're going to walk away. Yeah, really good job on Zig's part. Nothing crazy is going to happen here, but they are going to dance around. Keep in mind, the Li Ming poke is going to be crucial here. The Task Shield going to be blown up.
Nice.
But I don't know who's going to be able to walk away within here. Sray moving in maybe a little bit too early, taking 3 damage here on the map objective. Go the flank here, though, from Psalm. Soldier senses it and says, no, you are not moving through here.
Yeah, with that penetrating round connecting on Zeratul, puts him a little bit too low, and considering that Tassadar is a lone support and can really only shield. I mean, even when you spec into the Leeching Plasma and you spec into Khaled's Embrace at level 7, he still doesn't have the same kind of impact as a healer that refuels your health bar.
Yeah, and we do see when you're talking about the level 4s, and Venom is going to be provided for earlier skirmishing. Vorpal Blade, not necessarily uncommon, but an option go-to. But Zag is actually going to take more creep-oriented build here. He's already going to go with Tumor Clutch, getting more creep, more sight. You can expect 100% to get a endless creep here at level 7 here. He's going to just provide a large amount of vision for his team.
Yeah, so he's given up in Venom Spines, which gives him up or loses a bit of presence when it comes to the Immortal fight in racing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a interesting decision to see, but the power power of that creep spread. I mean, you already see it. The whole bottom part of the map is just, that's Zagara's lair.
Yeah, both these teams are going to cap their Shaman camp at almost the perfect timing for both sides. It's going to be split pushing. Who's going to dedicate the time to try and sit around and clear? It's going to be interesting and kind of just dictate who's going to walk away with his Immortal. If it spawns on the side, there they go. They do spawn on actually the opposite side of each one's camp, so it's going to be interesting. They're going to most likely proc the phase and then go and clear out the camp, but how fast and how many resources they clear to the camp is crucial.
Tempo gets a big lead on that one, actually getting there a little bit sooner, and they do have a nice advantage going into the halftime show. So if it results in another race, this is very well in favor of Tempo Storm. Also very close to level 7 on both sides, just kind of passing in the night, but during the second phase, we actually have Panda Global position first, so it's going to be very close here.
Yeah, and this is a situation where Panda Global knows that they aren't going to be able to win this, and they're totally okay with it. All they're doing is lowering the shield so it doesn't totally punish them, because they feel like they do well in the later half of the game. But on the Shaman camp wasn't that effective in the upper half, and on the bottom, it did, essentially both camps did nothing. So
full creep build, creep build. This is not something we see very common whatsoever. And KO is just mashing that D key.
One thing I want to talk about is that Goku's build going with Give Me More and then Fight or Flight is essentially so when Void Prison comes out, he can't be a killed target.
Oh, man.
They need that isolation, so he's ensuring the fact that right now, Medic, Li Ming has the teleportation, so she should be fine. KO and Medic are really going to be the only ones who are killable with that kind of isolation, and it's a really interesting decision to see come from Tempo Storm with their comp and whether or not it affects their scaling.
Psalm actually has to blink there, kind of unfortunately getting caught out by Sray. And a lot of damage being dealt. We do see the Immortal still standing, and the fort will go down, so let's go to net Temples from a nice experience advantage going towards level 10. No! The shield's just barely not enough from Tassadar.
Yeah, and it's a situation where they do get a big lead. It will dictate the pace of, or the direction that the next map objective is going to be going. It will now be punishing up in the upper half of the map, but really they don't walk away with too big of an XP lead right here. Raynor is going to be in a little bit of a mismatch in the 1v1 on top for a small time, but realistically, both these teams are going to back out, get a little bit of Merc pressure. There's essentially, this map is kind of in really heavy phases, right, where the Immortals are really kind of everything that matters, and like in this downtime, it's just get a little bit of pressure, get a little bit of creep out, don't risk anything because it's very hard to get a pick because of how big the map is.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, level 9 to level 9, super even right now. We do see Zeratul is going to start working on this top Khazar camp. Raynor, not at all capable of pressuring that, considering that Michael Udall also here on Thrall. So we're just going to have the trade of the Mercs. Mercs already being cleaned up by Panda Global in the bottom of the map, and level 10 will be reached very evenly to Goku. Nice penetrating round, not face checking.
Yeah, and they play a little bit passive here, but the huge rotation. This is going to be a 5 versus 2 here on the upper half. Udall is going to be going down. That is going to be one dead Thrall. The reset's going to come out, but Psalm says, you know what? I understand that you're not going to be able to survive this. Whether or not they're going to actually push this top fort here, Murden's still showing in the bottom half. They have 10 advantage. Whether or not they're going to try and maximize this could be risky once Thrall survives, but up until that point, it will be a free fort now. A really big spike in advantage there coming out from Tempo, even being willing to burn the Hyperion and understanding they're going to capitalize while Thrall is dead.
That guarantees the death of this fort, but we're talking about a heroic that has been spent. Long cooldown, 100 seconds there for Hyperion, and this does give enough time for level 10 to be reached. Now the respawn there on Thrall. Thrall's back in action, ready for the next Immortal phase, and they have spawned on opposing sides.
I think that use of Hyperion is going to be really detrimental to Tempo if they decide to take this fight here. You see both teams playing safe here. I'm surprised that Panda Global doesn't try and get that poke on their opponents. Like we were talking about that triple range, right? Like they're not sitting there trying to contest their opponents at any point. It's really interesting. They lock in the 10 here. And like I said, I feel like this is going to be good. The triple range here is going to be really susceptible.
Wow, that poke.
Yeah, the poke coming out from, keep in mind, KO as well can eat those things alive. So like they really need to keep track of where all 5 members of Tempo are.
Tempo is a little split up. Sray getting caught out by the force wall, and they're collapsing onto the back. Sundering still a big option. We actually see the stim drone has been cast, so Tempo Storm trying to fight back. The pink Raynor, so very festive for Valentine's Day, not able to do as much damage as Goku would like.
But the problem is that they just burned stim drone and got nothing, and they didn't burn Void Prison. So they're in a situation where they have all the ability to force the engage here, and you see it right now.
Oh, the Sundering does go out, but the Maw buying some space. It's just connecting on one target, but forcing them back. Force wall locking them in the backside. They're collapsing onto KO, and Zagara goes down. Will Goku be able to retreat? It looks like the rest of the team is getting out, and Big Impact is rather low. Needs to be careful. Remember, there's only Tassadar as shielding, so Tempo is actually a little bit willing to re-engage this.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. Oh, goodness. They're going to try and get on the map objective here. This is a little bit risky here. This is a 5 versus 4, keep in mind. mind. And Zix, they're dancing on their objective, and they're trying to delay as long as possible. A lot of it comes down to the fact that they decided to try. Oh, they're going to actually make a really aggressive rotation here, try and beat their opponents. I think they're not going to be able to do it, but it's going to be a little bit close. If they burn Stim Drone, though, they need to force a VP if they aren't going to get anything out of it. They didn't rotate.
Psalm looking for the VP. A nice shine there from Saray, getting eyes on in the forest wall, just buying them a little bit of space. Saray getting back into position to start pressuring this Immortal, giving Soldier the room he needs to just throw out those skill shots. And Hyperion off cooldown, being cast very early. This allows Tempo to safely re-engage under that, but they have to worry about this flank on the right side.
The Hyperion is going to secure it there, and this is going to be a huge fight here, Jake. Sorry, I was trying to calculate if that's going to happen. Goku, give me more coming into play there, and a huge reset.
The beautiful knockout, the damage from that Li Ming is just shredding through the team. Big Impact does manage to dodge the magic missiles, but that is going to be another Immortal for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, and that really comes down to the comp. Really well done on their part, and they're going to end up walking away with probably a front wall here. They have no Hyperion to get a big amount of siege here. It's only going to be a quarter shield here, but really Tempo Storm losing a player and still walking away with a win there, and that really good decision making on their part here. Li Ming, Soldier, how he's been playing that around, getting that massive poke on the map objectives, really what put them in this situation. So really well done in his part. Goku trying to survive here, but the flank coming from above.
They got Sundering, they got VP, and they have the double flank coming out here from Panda Global. Tempo Storm trying to get out. Not a very good VP or Sundering, but they do seclude onto Zix. They take out the medic, and Tempo Storm just needs to retreat from here. So well worth the heroic casts.
But it's to what end? Look at their keep. Was that really worth it? Congratulations, you killed a medic, but what did you actually gain in that situation? The keep is now going to be a chokehold point at all points of the game. So now the next Immortal, right, it's going to be threatening the upper half of the map. Tempo Storm is going to be able to go to bottom, secure 100% the fact that they get a keep. They might be able to do it at any point. It did walk away with a winning situations, hands down, for the side of Panda Global, but realistically, I just don't know if that was a winning trade on their half to risk that getting that low and burning so many cooldowns.
Medics up. They didn't really get the experience lead. They're down in XP. Tempo's about to have 13. They picked up the Khazra camp. Now they're getting Fallen Shaman. They can even rotate up in time to pressure that top Khazra camp as well. So Tempo certainly taking a lead in this game.
Yeah, absolutely, and they've done really, really well. I've been surprised that they've been able to do the map objective, the Immortals getting those Punisher or the Immortals damage down as well as they have been able to this game. They've done a really good job of that and had very crisp rotations. They do pick up the 13 tier advantage here, and look at that. We do see out of Rainer, we're going to go Relentless Leader, very much wanting to ensure the fact that he is not a killable target. Yeah. You see coming out from Zix, he actually goes with the Spell Shield as well. They do not want to risk that opportunity to die.
I mean, all of this, it's all about sustain. Illusionist as well to get Li Ming out of even more dire situations as well.
They're just saying that, okay, that's the only way that we feel like our opponents can win. Look at, remember that.
This.
Yep, that's the situation Zix showed. So now they have to full commit, but it's one of those situations where it doesn't matter. Now guess what? That's going to be poking the entire game again. That was a lot of it came down to the engaged decision making out of their opponents there, and now they're going to have Catapult sieging that bottom map while the Immortals are going to be spawned. So the longer the Immortal fight goes, the better it's going to be for Tempo Storm here in this game. And this is game number 3. It is crucial how these next couple of minutes get played out here, Jake. Look at Sray. He's dancing with Adele a little bit here. He does get that blind out though.
Okay, well, for one level lead, but talents are even here. But with that bottom keep being down, if this is drawn out, those catapults will start to pressure even further down the lane in favor of Tempo Storm. We see Saray just constantly in the front, trying to get eyes on the enemy team. We do see the double melee, looking for their flanks at every moment. Zeratul way behind in the bottom, looking for a flank, but he does back off.
It's one of those situations, though, remember we were talking about that keep, what that means. The longer this goes, the better it is. And Tempo Storm now playing the defensive. We were talking about how good they were on the offensive side of the map, but now they realize we have the upper hand. Guys, we're going to delay this as best we can.
And this is very smart, but Psalm is keeping his presence in the bottom, not only because he can look for a flank, but he can keep the lane pushed out if absolutely necessary. Beacon took a lot of poke. We do see Zix in the front taking a lot of damage. Sundering not connecting on him, and can they peel in time? Psalm gets the shield. Zix will end up falling in a beautiful initiative from Panda Global, but the response, Ama with Sray in the front, 2 targets in the back. They're going to get big impact, and now we have a very low, very vulnerable Tassadar. Aka face going to fall. Thrall goes down. The reset on Soldier, and it's a 3, a 4 for nothing. 4 for 1 for Tempo Storm.
And this is a situation where beyond the fact that the team fight was seemed a little bit forced here, they're going to be able to get on this and going to force the phase. They only have Zeratul up to actually kill on the Immortal, which isn't very good, right? He's not very good at taking out that Immortal. So what that does is it allows the shields to be even higher for Tempo. Not only did they lose the fight, but they lost it around the phase of the map objective and late enough that they're going to be able to get it. It's going to phase, and then they're going to force it even harder. This is now a map objective to where it's going to be pushing on top with almost full shields. And what Tempo's going to be able to do at this point of the game is essentially use it as a chokehold to where they can actually phase fake feign by going for the core and using it. It's where you either answer with that or we threaten your core, especially if Hyperion gets up in this amount of time. This is an absolutely colossal turning point for Tempo Storm, and whether or not they're going to be able to maximize their capitalization here, Jake, is going to come down to the next couple of seconds.
Well, Dread, yeah, like you said, this is going to be a dire situation. Not only that, but level 16 advantage on the side of Tempo Storm. They are going to put their presence into this top lane for now. Do they bait them? Do they juke down? We'll find out in a moment.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to decide not to. It's a chokehold point because they don't have a very big lead. If they had 16, I feel like it would be a little bit more common, and they don't have Hyperion either. I think that's a really big reason why they want to pull away from it. But you can use this kind of little dance, right, whether or not they want to go for the core or not. But here you go. They're going to get a large amount of siege. But again, from the flank, Jake, B-Kid is looking to try and make something happen here. Ziggs playing very, very safe. Saw him all the way behind, but Ziggs is isolated.
Two things to point out. We have Bullseye there, the big stun from Raynor, forces out the Sundering, and we see KO getting burned down very quickly, but not before landing a two-man maw. This gives Big Impact a big dire situation to back on away, and he uses that cleave to back up. VP used defensively. No follow-up, and B-Kid will be secluded and blown up from the medic grenade.
That's a one death for one there. The Hyperion was used so they don't have Siege to actually kill the core there. If they had that up, that might be an option here. They're looking for a couple of picks. The poke coming out wherever they can. That's 2 keep advantage and 16 tier advantage in favor of Tempo. They're posturing for a core here. This could be risky. There is no Void Prison to save them out here, so I guess they have the opportunity. They have really good siege, but it's all going to come down to if Ziggs is able to stay alive.
Think about the mirror ball. Think about the damage from that magic missile. They have to be so careful. Michael Udall dodging it. Sray popping that divine shield or the shield to stay alive. The Iron Skin, the core has fallen down to 70% health. Tempo Storm with the stim drone on Raynor. They're burning it very quickly. Have they ended it? Are they going to defeat Panda Global here? I think they have it, Dreadnought. Tempo Storm wins on game number 3 and will advance to the upper bracket finals in the group stage.
Absolutely, that was really well done. Trying to wait for that Tassadar shield there as best as they possibly could to try and secure the fact that they weren't going to lose that game there. Panda Global, though, I mean, Tempo Storm making a really decisive and a little bit of maybe a risky call there at the end there. They pull away the win, but a lot of it came down to the fact that notice how nobody got on Ziggs. That medic is one of the better sieging heroes because you're like, normally when somebody gets on the core like that, right, you're like, just kill who's on the core. Remember I was talking about that game 1. Uther, just kill whoever's getting hit by the core. You want to isolate people as fast as possible, but guess what? Medic has legitimately infinite heals if he has Panda. So it's one of those situations where it's like, if you don't get on Medic, they're going to win. And it took them a very long time to get to that point, and it walks away with barely... I mean,
you saw Soldier just zoning for Medic the whole time.
And he did a very good job, but it's one of those situations where it's like, if that didn't happen, I don't know if Tempo actually walked away with a win there.
Well, I mean, that was definitely an intense series, very even, well played by both Tempo Storm and Panda Global. We see Tempo walking over, showing a lot of respect, shaking the hands of Panda, but it's not over for either of these teams. Like we said, Tempo will be moving on, and Panda Global will fall to the lower bracket.
Yeah.
But they have another chance during the group stage.
Absolutely, and I mean, their performance here definitely shows that they have the opportunity to still come back in this tournament. I do not by any means think that this counts them out. Right. I mean, they might be a sad Panda now, but I really do feel like they have an opportunity here, Jake.
I mean, we saw this play here, the VP going down, the Sundering only connecting and locking down the Medic. They pick Medic off early, and this looked like a big win, but you see that two-man maw in the position of Saray to force Big Impact into a bad spot. Soldier going in, getting killed, and then the reset on Medic.
Meanwhile,
not getting the value there, but the kill goes down.
Goku has been 1v1ing on the upper half of the map the entire time, and because he's got that give me more in like a 1v1 style build, he legit just goes, oh, you wanna go blow for blow? Because he's like, I'm gonna be healing up a lot here, boys.
Man, Raynor in a 1v1 with that build, when you go for give me more, he's just disgusting.
Absolutely.
And once you have Bullseye too, the 1 second stun.
He's very hard to deal with, and that was exactly what happened in the type of team fight. So, I mean, and it plays out for Tempo Storm. They walk away with a pretty, I don't know if I'd say convincing, but definitely great win when it comes to some of those games.
I mean, a hard-earned win probably makes the morale feel even better, right? You just played hard. You won a victory that honestly means a lot because this guarantees them a much stronger spot in the bracket, or at least for the group stage.
At least, yeah. I mean, it increases the chances. Like even though they only win one set right there, it involves a lot of opportunity when it comes to how they can play the rest of the tournament when it comes to getting to Korea. So it's going to be interesting what they do here, Jake.
Well, I think we are actually ready for an interview with Anna Prosser. Take it away.
Hi guys, I'm here with Srey. I get to talk to him a little bit about the game. And Srey, is this the first time you've gotten to do an interview on stage?
It is. It's the first time I'm doing an interview. Usually KO does that stuff, so.
Well, awesome. I'm glad we get to see a different face. And I was really excited to have you up here because I was sitting right over here by Tempo Storm and hearing you guys shouting as loud as you could, making calls and all of that. And I know a lot of you have mentioned to me how important it is that the voices of everyone are heard. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like on your comms during these games?
I mean, I'm shot calling. Everyone's giving input. The person you're hearing is probably Zix. He likes to hype us up, which we appreciate. But I mean, there's nothing really unusual about our comms. We kind of just share it amongst us. So.
Were you expecting the way that this match went? Did you expect a 2-0, or did you think Panda Global was going to be able to pull out that second game?
I mean, we expected the 2-0, but we weren't surprised that we dropped a game. I think the Melf pick kind of messed us up. Because Goku obviously had some trouble trying to flank and stuff. He was getting picked off. That's mostly due to the Uther pick, or not picking Uther and picking Melf. So. I
know that the casters had some theories on why you guys made some of the decisions you did. Casters, do you have some questions for Srey?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, again, what was the decision making for Melf over Uther? Is it because the lane clear from Moonburn? Because I found that very intriguing because the vision, I mean, we saw the Wisp and the Owl, everything, constantly just showing your position on Goku and ruining your day.
Yeah, so the issue, why we picked Melf is because they have Zagara. Did they have Tassadar? I can't remember.
They did.
Yeah, they had Zag, Tass, and they had Lunara. So, I mean, that's pretty sustained damage. So, Melf is a sustained damage healer. Uther is not. So, if you're playing Uther, you're going to get poked out pretty hard. And so that's why we went with Melf. But, I mean, it obviously didn't work out because he couldn't, Goku was trying to dive in the back, and you needed Divine Shield or some kind of hard sustain like in the middle of the fight. And Melf also is he was getting killed before Melf even got Trank off, so that's kind of why we picked it though, because of the sustained damage that they had. And then they picked Ronda, I believe, so that definitely helped them burst down targets.
Anything else from you guys? I know that you had a lot to say about that, Dreadnought.
Yeah, when it came to that final core call at the very end, what was the #1 determining factor? Because after you burnt the Hyperion, I was really questioning whether or not core was something that you were going to be able to do. What was in your head really the kind of decision where you're like, you know what, guys, we can actually go core?
Did you say game 2?
Or game 3, excuse me, sorry, with the Hyperion being burnt in that team fight?
So we had both keeps down, and we had catapults pushing each lane, and it was 4v4, and they, I can't remember who we picked up. We picked up B-Kid, so they didn't really have that much CC. They used all their ults already, I believe. So I think we just knew that we could go with that. Maybe it was a little bit close. I once again missed my blessed shield, but I was pretty confident that we're going to end it there, especially with all the lanes pushing in. So.
Missing the blessed shield happens to all of us, man. It happens to the best. Well, it happens, some more than others. Exactly. Thank you. Well, casters, anything else, or are you good for now? I'm looking forward to this next match. You guys are going to go on to play either King of Blades Alpha or Naventic. Are you looking forward to playing one over the other, or do you think you're going to see one over the other?
I mean, I prefer King of Blades because they're considered the weaker team, but in terms of just preference overall, no.
Well, I have one more question because I was sitting over here kind of listening in on your comms. I heard Zix say, guys, we need to win this game because if I don't become famous in HOTS, I won't get to meet Taylor Swift. Can you tell us about the plan that Zix has to meet Taylor Swift, or are you guys working together for that goal for him? Is that something that's really important?
I mean, for him, it seems something that he's really dedicated to. Yeah. He likes to play Taylor Swift songs when we're trying to scrim. It can be distracting. He likes the gifs, the images. So, I mean, it's really a group effort just for him. You know, I mean, I don't know what sometimes it's distracting, but I mean, he really likes Taylor. So. Well,
maybe we can sing a Taylor Swift duet. I already have one planned, like a Space Jam duet with Dunk Train. So we'll have to figure that out later. Again, thank you, congratulations, Srey. Your team will move on. Very good job. And guys, we will be back with more Heroes of the Storm right after this.